Friday. Oh, we got this thing turned on. It's Friday on the Chicago Hockey Radio live show. Justin Lynch, Lee Grossman, Tassos, Kirkos bringing it to you right here on a Friday, rainy Friday here in Chicago.
Pouring.
It
Monsooning.
is, yeah. The weather here has been terrible. I can't even. But what's the weather like out there in Ohio, Justin? Give us a play-by-play.
Pretty similar. It's pretty cloudy out there. It looks like there might be some rain falling. Pretty much whatever Chicago gets, we get the next day. So It's pretty similar with that lakefront effect, Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, same deal. So pretty depressing here too.
We're going to welcome on a special guest in about 20 minutes time here. Blackhawks insider who goes by the name of Grant legally. Blackhawks insider, not his legal name.
I was going to say, you should have done those the opposite. You should have said Grant's coming on, goes by Blackhawks insider.
General Grant. Be nice to have him on the pod. They're one of the best at Instagram when it comes to covering the Hawks.
Absolutely.
I've known him, DM'd him, talked to him for a while these last few years. So it'll be nice to be able to talk Blackhawks hockey with him for sure.
Yeah, Justin coming in clutch, getting the guest today. I did not book today's guest, so that was
that's your job. So I finally contributed there.
Yeah, there we go. Love to see it. We're gonna do some cleanup from last night's loss. Thank you to everybody that tuned in to the live stream of me and Lee. That was a lot of fun, actually. We said it on the post game, I feel like, but we didn't really watch a whole ton of the game. Like I had to go back and watch some of the highlights again and re-look at some things and be prepared for today's show. But that was a ton of fun, just interacting with the chat. That was really cool. I'm going to do a lot of the fun house cleaning, plug God stuff right now. Live show at Midwest Coast Brewing. So basically what we did last night, but in person. So you can come, you can drink discounted beer, and you can watch myself, Lee, and Justin. We will all be there. We will be live streaming the game. It is against the Ottawa Senators, the surging Ottawa Senators right now, who picked up a big overtime win last night against the Caps. They're rolling. They're in a playoff spot right now. So that will be a really good hockey game. Maybe future Blackhawk Brady Tkachuk in that one.
Yeah, least favorite player.
Could be.
Yeah. So Midwest Coast Brewing, March the 5th. The RSVP link is in the episode. It's in the description of this episode, whether you are watching or listening. So please RSVP there if you even have a little bit of interest in going. We're trying to get an accurate number of how many peeps are going to show up, how many CHR enjoyers, as Lee likes to call our fans. So there's that. 2 days left to enter the ticket giveaway that we're doing with the barn. We're giving away 4 100 level tickets. I've said this a couple of times. Don't miss out on this. Like, those tickets are so nice. Like, that's basically our rent, here at the
probably
studio.
Like $600 worth of value.
Probably more than that is my guess.
Once in a lifetime opportunity. Get in there. Just do it, man. It's free. Get in there.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know. Like, if we had to not get the tickets from the barn, I don't know if we would have been able to give away tickets those nights. Or at least 4 of them. It probably would have been 2 of them. So, I've said this a couple of times, but the hack to getting the tickets is you enter, and then you get the 3 friends you'd go to the game with to also enter, and then you guys have 4 times of a greater shot at winning this. So that game is next week. The drawing ends 11:59 p.m. Central on Sunday, so you got 2.5 days really to enter that still. So subscribe to this YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram, leave a 5-star rating and review. It helps us out a ton. And plugging my show a little bit too. Some people in the live stream were asking about it. It is Good Morning Hockey. Today's episode should just be out. Raven and I were in here chopping it up and talking about some of the stuff that we're going to get to probably in the NHL hour of this stuff. So let's do some cleanup from last night's game. Justin, Lee, just where do you want to start? We have some clips here that we're going to get to in a minute. We'll do that, in short order, but I don't know if you wanted to tee anything up first.
Yeah, I think outside of the fact that it took us 17 minutes to record a shot and goal in about 3 minutes in the second period, I thought overall it was a pretty solid game for the Hawks, right? Good to see Bedsy keep cooking there, get another goal. He's on fire lately. Points in 20 of his last 25 games. How about the consistency? I think 16 is past 18. Very rare, he goes pointless these days. So that's great to see. Seth, 7-game heater, increasing that trade value. That's also good to see. So on the negative side, though, Hawks gave up 3 shorties the last 8 games. The power play definitely could use some work there. Seth Jarvis has scored 2 of those shorthanded goals for the Canes, but thankfully we don't see them anymore this season. But no, I think for a loss, I think there are definitely some solid takeaways. Definitely not a perfect game by any means, but some good things to take into the game tomorrow against the Cats.
Absolutely. After watching, I kept watching the Bedard goal over and over again. And just the more I watched it, it was so sweet, dude, because Kochetkov thought he was going high the whole time, waited, change up through the 5-hole. So it's just sweet to see him mixing up his shot selection a little bit, keeping goalies on the toes.
Because Betsy always shoots up high, right? Mm-hmm. He hasn't really scored a lot of goals like that in his career, 5-hole, right? Shots low. So definitely good, like you said, to see him change it up, score goals in different ways. That's how good more of them are going to keep coming for him. He was flying last night too, by the way. I see people critique him for his skating sometimes. Is he an amazingly fast skater? No, but he's sure as hell not slow, and he's crafty. He's good with his edges. I thought we saw a lot of that last night. He was moving out there.
Yeah,
you could see that goal coming.
He was playing pissed off, and I think we said it on the stream, like something's coming here for Bedsy. He just looked pissed off. To your point, he was flying around the ice. So all that stuff is good to see. And the guy who got him the assist was Mr. Seth Jones, who is, as we've mentioned, is on a heater right now. Good to see him playing better. We talked about him pretty extensively last night on the post game, but we've got a clip from him here. If we could play that,
you want to hear from Jones first?
Yeah, Jonesy first.
Everyone's favorite Blackhawk.
Against them, but it seemed like you guys passed up a number of chances today. Like, were you not aggressive enough shooting?
Yeah, the first 15 minutes of the game, I don't know if we had a shot, did we?
Oh, that's also, yeah.
But when we get over the blue line, we just got to start putting pucks to the net, I think, and not looking for the perfect play, especially against this team. We can probably take a page out of their book. They usually end games with 70, 80 shot attempts and 40 shots on net. And if you look at the analytics, I guess that'll lead to some wins.
What has me?
Yeah, get over the blue line, put the puck on the net.
I think a few subtle jabs there, right? The Canes over there, you take a page out of their book, get more shots on net, right? You probably win more games. So this team doesn't do a lot of that. We'll get into this later, but I actually did some homework heading into this show just to see how bad the Hawks have been at getting shots every game. We'll get into it later, but Seth's point definitely rings true for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we, and I did see the homework you did in the notes here, and I'll let you, talk about that, but. We've talked about this for weeks. It feels like, we sat down on the show a few weeks ago being like, how do the Hawks record more shots? Is it a possession game? Is it just blindly throwing things on the net? Is it creating, is it a face-off issue? When you're starting out each draw without the puck, you're chasing instead of having control.
Is it a zone entry thing?
Is it a zone entry thing? Yeah. Is it
I think it's all the above.
Yeah, probably. It is probably somewhere a mix of all of it. So
so last night on the stream I kept saying how the Hawks always have around 20 in sub 20 shot range, and the other team always has 30, 35 plus. We didn't have the exact stats, but Justin thankfully did a little bit of research for us. I think you should get into it now because we're talking about it. And these stats are pretty shocking if you want to.
Do you want to do it? Yeah, let's do it now.
I'll do it right now. So I went through the entire month of January because January is coming to an end here, right? Tomorrow's February 1st. The entire month of January. So less than 15 shots on goal has happened once. They had 14. Less than 20 also happened once, and that was exactly 15. Check this out. 8 times the Hawks have recorded between 20 to 25 shots.
Wow.
This month. They never record more than 25. They only did it 3 times all month, and that was 26 twice and 27th once. In other words, the Hawks have not recorded more than 30 shots on goal since the Winter Classic, and that was exactly 30. So actually, they haven't recorded 30 shots on goal in over a month here, which is kind of wild. I mean, I don't know how you go an entire month. What is that? 13 games without doing that once. But that is the Blackhawks for you. I couldn't believe that when I saw it. I went through all the games, and that was out. The math checks out there. You could see it yourself. So that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, and even if it's not high danger opportunities, it's going to be hard to consistently win hockey games when you're just getting outshot by 10 plus every single night. You're leaning too much on your goalies, and you're not testing the other team's goalie enough. As we kind of just mentioned, I mean, I don't know what's the best way to go about improving that? Is it the zone entries? Is it the face-offs? I think it's definitely possession. Obviously having the puck in the O-zone more for longer periods of time is going to, lead to more shots. But it's all these little things that is going to get you there.
Well, that's the weird thing. I feel like the Hawks' possession under Sorensen has been better, though, compared to Richardson, because we're not always just giving up the puck all the time to dumping and chasing, right? I feel like we are hanging on the puck more, but like we just never seem to be able to generate time and space and quality looks, and players aren't taking that. We don't have a lot of guys like Donato just take every opportunity they get here. I think I should do some more homework for the Monday show and see how much shots the Hawks give up every game, too, because I bet you that one's probably 35 plus more often than not. That'd be interesting to look into. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think you're right about it. It probably is.
Speaking of Ryan Donato, I think we do have a Ryan Donato clip in here if we want to hear from him. I think he talks more about the scoring chances, generating those.
Afraid to shoot. How do you get other guys to think the same way?
I don't know. Usually, I think it just starts with them trying it. Like you got to do it, and you get a lucky one that bounces off of a skate, or hits off the goalie awkwardly and somehow sneaks in, and you're there like, okay, now maybe that's the key to success. Just numbers, and I think there's other plays to be had. It's not always the best option to shoot, but if you don't have the perfect pass, shot's a good option. So I think we could do that a little bit more.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Yes and no. My thought is, like, there were a couple of times during yesterday's game, Donato even in particular, I feel like had an opportunity there in the third period where he's just like stick handling it 1, 2, 3 too many times, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you know what? Like, you get to the top of the circle and there's bodies there. You're not always going to get, like, a big thing for me, I said this when Mikheyev scored on the breakaway. It's like, that's how you score on a breakaway, right? Like, not everybody has the moves, not everybody's Jack Hughes on a breakaway or William Nylander, but even William Nylander, when he comes in on a breakaway, he gets to the hash marks, he rips it, Very rare is it like the dipsy doodle kind of deking sort of thing. Once you get to the hash marks, rip it. If you're just carrying the puck in the offensive zone, once you get to the top of the circle, you should have 2 support players going to the net, and you should just rip it. And, it feels like the Hawks are just looking for the perfect play. And guess what? A lot of the time, the perfect play isn't going to be there. You have to create havoc. You need to, you need to cause chaos, and you're not doing that, right? And the more you hang on to it, the more likely you are to just, like, lose it.
This Hawks team doesn't really have the personnel. It isn't really built to score on perfect plays very often, right? They're good. The way they score goals is by generating those chaotic looks, right? And getting the dirty areas, right? That's how they're going to score goals. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of these situations, the best play is just shooting. Like, that is the perfect play. You got 1 or 2 guys in front of the net. Stop trying to look for that backdoor pass and just put one on,
Most of the time you're going to whiff on a backdoor pass anyways with these guys. Bedard had one too where he tried to feed it over to Bertuzzi, and it's like, man, you're that close to the goalie, and you're Connor Bedard. Shoot the puck.
Yeah, be more selfish.
Yeah, and he's like one of the few guys who's capable of scoring those perfect looks, very often, more often than not. So, yeah, Bedsy, you get those opportunities, take them. I want to see more selfishness. You're too unselfish, my boy. Yeah, shoot that puck.
Yeah, shoot the puck. Do we
want to hear from Sorensen? We got one more clip here.
Yeah, let's hear from the coach.
15 minutes into the game and don't have a shot on goal.
All right.
Are you making the guys aware of that? Like, just get the puck on net, like get it kind of on the cookie jar lid or anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I think everybody sees it, right? We had some shot attempts. I don't know if they blocked a bunch and pressured our shots. So, but I thought after that though we did a lot of good things in terms of that. We got pucks to the net more, and they're a good team. They're a good defensive team. They suffocate you all over the ice, but I thought we did a really good job after that 12, 13 minutes at the start.
Seth Jones has been.
Here comes Tassos's
daily. I can't stand the that's a good team over there. Like, it reminds me, I told you, it always reminds me of the first episode of Shoresy where he says something back after Michael says, that's a good team over there, and it's like, why don't you go, shake their hands, is what he, it's not really what he says, but he didn't say shake their hands, but I hate that, dude.
I always make sure I include a Sorensen clip because I know you love listening to him talk, so I always make sure I get some Sorensen clips in there for you.
Well, I mean, it's important to hear from the coach. Like, he's the head coach of the team. Yeah. Like, we should be hearing from the coach every time we do this show, right? Like, it's important to hear what he thinks and how he thinks the club is playing. And, I just, like, when you go 7, and it wasn't, they referenced it a couple of times, it wasn't 15 minutes. It was 17 minutes and 15 seconds before they got a shot. So.
And also his response being like, well, we did. I think they just blocked a few. It's like not really the answer you should be giving. Like, no, this is
Making
not
excuses.
Yeah, it's not just a that period thing. This has been
talk.
It's been a persistent issue throughout the entire season of not shooting the puck enough. It wasn't just that they blocked a few in the first.
It's not like this is the first period like all season we've seen where they've almost gone like the entire period without recording a shot, one or two. Like there've been quite a few periods exactly like that. So it's not like this is a first time thing where I'd be okay making those excuses. Like it's happened pretty frequently. So it's obviously something they got to address there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't deal with the excuse talk. Like, give us real, tangible things that the hockey team needs to do to generate more offensive opportunity and offensive looks, right? Because it's not even just like the shot generation too. Shots come from sustained ozone time, and they come from hanging onto the puck. Like through the first 17 minutes and 15 seconds of that hockey game, they're like, the Hawks would enter the zone, they turn it over. Canes go the other way. Then the Canes hang onto the puck for a minute and a half in the Hawk zone. Then it's a little bit of like neutral zone tummy sticks. And then, eventually the Hawks maybe get the possession going the other way. They enter the zone and, curl and lose the puck again. And it's like repeat. And, you just got to I said this on the Nazar goal too when I harped on him for curling back when he didn't have anybody open as soon as he entered the zone on the Rantanen goal. And then, suddenly there's two Carolina Hurricanes on him and then it goes the other way and it ends up in the back of your net. But it's not just that particular Nazar play. Like, that's the Hawks in general. Now, I'm not saying that we need to go back to the Luke Richardson, gain the red line, dump it in, and go back. Because you frankly don't even have the horses to be able to go win a puck battle. If you did that last night against the Carolina Hurricanes,
you would have gotten smoked.
They're just, you're either going to get smoked in the corners or they're just going to end up with the puck because they're one of the better possession teams in the league and they're going to break it out efficiently and then suddenly you're on your heels again, right? So I'm not saying you got to do that, but if you have three guys in the zone and you don't have an option for a play right off the hop, you either get it deep or you throw it towards the net and hope that it creates some sort of odd bounce. It's hockey, right? It's a piece of frozen vulcanized rubber bouncing across a frozen ice surface. You never know what happens when you just throw it on the net, right?
And even if it's like an easy save for a goalie and he covers up, you got an ozone draw. You get set up, you have all five players in the ozone. That's okay too, forcing the pass is not going to be the option, especially with the personnel. It's like just shoot it.
I'll be fascinated to see the ratio of defensive zone draws versus ozone draws for the Hawks this season. It's got to be so lopsided, man.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, we have Grant here. Should we bring him on here?
Yeah, Blackhawks insider. Let's get him.
Welcome.
All right, Raven. Raven, let's see how well we can make this transition. Raven's going to try nailing this transition. So we practiced it yesterday morning. So I think he's about to nail this, though.
Ooh.
So we're going to welcome on Blackhawks Insider here, one of the very best in the business at what he does. Grant, welcome to the program, my friend. How you doing today? Very nice setup you got. Oh, he's adjusting a little bit. We'll give him a second.
Look at that. Look at that bedsy in the background of the Hawks flag. Really professional setup. Much better than me. I got nothing to look at in the background.
The other wall, I'm using my bed right now. It's a little stand here because the other wall is pretty bare, but yeah.
How you doing
Very
today,
nice.
Grant?
Pretty good. How you guys?
Good.
Excellent. Friday's always a good day.
All right, so we're cleaning up last night's game a little bit against the Hurricanes. The Hawks try and get there late. Obviously, the Bedard goal brings them within one. They weren't able to do it. You're jumping in on a discussion about shot generation for the Blackhawks. They went the first 17 minutes plus of last night's game without getting a shot on goal. What do you think the solution is here towards, the Hawks creating more offensive opportunities, getting more pucks on net? Like, what is it that what's the problem for you, and maybe what do you view as the solution?
I feel like a lot of times they kind of just are just too cute with it. Like they try to either make the extra pass or do something behind the back. Like literally both of their goals, their first two goals yesterday, Kurashev had it late to the net and he curls back, turns it over.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nazar tried to do a little cute dump off to Bedard or whatever, turned it over, they go back the other way and score. So I think literally just put the puck on net. There's a rebound, maybe the goalie messes up, whatever, but they just gotta just shoot it. It's a simple cliche, but just put the puck on net. You don't know what's gonna happen. So yeah.
Absolutely. And we're beating this this subject into a pulp And you'd hope that the Blackhawks coaching staff is at least kind of doing the same, right? Like, you got to imagine they're talking about this. I don't know if that's going to directly translate to the Hawks having 30-plus shots a night, but I think it's an important thing for this young group to be thinking about going forward, especially in a season where, look, there's really not much to gain, right? So put the puck on the net. Shoot it.
Yeah.
Develop these good habits. Don't be turning the puck over when you cross the blue line every time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, literally dead last in the league in shots on target per game, shots overall per game. Like we're like bottom 3 in goals. So like just put the puck on net. It's simple. Just got to get on net to score. So
absolutely. A lot of news, a lot of stuff going on around the league, but do we want to get into a tee up for tomorrow's matinee against the Panthers here?
I mean, sure. Yeah. I mean, first Hawks matinee game in what feels like a while too. I'm kind of down for a nice matinee. You know, Justin.
I know you love your matinee games. I'm not a big fan. I love the late night games, the atmosphere, the vibes. Yeah. I just feel like sometimes matinee games they're sleepy, man. It's still light outside. I like when it's dark out, man. It feels better. The energy. Although I'm more of a night person, that might be why. I don't know.
I feel like the Hawks have had good matinee games like over the years. I feel like we always used to play Detroit in matinee games and just like Kane would light them up. In that Philly game this season that Michkov scored in overtime, I think that was a matinee. It was, you know, either like 12 or 2 o'clock. But that one was fun. I do like having the games kind of early and then, you know, you can go on with your day. And just because all the games are at night, if you have a big slate like we always do on Saturday where you've got 13 games on the same day,
then you can't watch the rest.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Have some early.
So Grant, how do you think, you know, Justin likes saying that the Hawks match up actually pretty well against the Florida Panthers over the last few seasons, and that is kind of true. You know, Bedard has played pretty well. Also some news out of Florida too yesterday that former Blackhawk draft pick Adam Boquist has been placed on waivers for the purpose of assignment to the American Hockey League as well. You know, how do you think tomorrow goes a little bit? How do you think this Hawks team does match up against the Panthers? You know, obviously these two teams are in different stratospheres when it comes to expectations. One is obviously a bottom dweller and one's a Stanley Cup contender. But, you know, what do you think about a game going into tomorrow? Because you can't obviously go into it thinking they're going to get dusted.
no, I mean, I heard Vlasic in an interview the other day with talking about how they just play better against better teams. They're like, because the other team think it's going to be a catwalk, whatever. Like we're the bottom team of the league, so maybe they take their foot off the gas a little bit, and that's where we can kind of, you know, take over and surprise them a little bit. So I think they match up pretty good. I mean, obviously it's a tough game. They just won the cup, so obviously they're good. But I mean, honestly, it's going to come down to goaltending to me. Honestly, like if you can get the goaltending from whoever, either Mrazek or Soderblom, then, you know, they'll give them a chance to win because they've been lights out recently, especially Soderblom. He's been insane. So I think if they can just get the goaltending, you know, try and sneak a couple passes and then just shut it down on defense, then they'll definitely have a chance.
Absolutely. And also, Tassos, to your point, I feel like this is not a horrible spot for the Blackhawks. It'll be interesting to see who's starting in net for Florida.
For both teams, really.
And both teams.
Stick with Soda. I want to see Soda get. Let's ride Soda. He's playing so well lately. I don't want to see Peter for a while. Yeah.
But I don't know. You know, noon start for Florida against one of the worst teams in the league. Like, you say the term, like, can you get up for it? But, like, they actually have to get up for this one. So hopefully we come in with a chip on our shoulder. We're already on the East Coast, so, you know, although it is going to be more like 11 o'clock for our guys, I think they can play well. To go to the Boquist thing, dude, I just feel like I feel bad for him, but also I don't know if that's an NHL player right there. You know, like he's bounced around a little bit now. He's had looks on several different teams. Do you guys see him as a guy who's gonna be in the league for a long time?
It's like, crazy that Quinn Hughes was picked right before, but I know the Hawks. I know I mentioned this last show. I think he was the guy the Hawks were looking at, and unfortunately, we got screwed over there. But yeah, with Boquist, like he's got the offensive tools. He's a good skater. He's a skilled player, but it's like I feel like he just lacks the hockey IQ, and he's always going down with some sort of injury or something. He's so fragile. So I just don't know if he's built for it. I don't know if he's built for the NHL. He seems like a European player over there. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure somebody will pick him up. Maybe there's still some potential there that's untapped. But I mean, he's been tried around 3 times now. I guess the Hawks officially won the Seth Jones trade. I don't know, maybe
Yeah, I
not the
was just gonna say.
contract, but the trade itself, if you look at it, actually didn't turn out so bad from the Hawks' perspective.
Yeah. The problem with Boquist, though, is that he's like, realistically, what he is he's a third pairing puck moving D, plays on the right. Like, that sounds good and nice, but like so many teams in the league have their like power play puck mover in the top two defensive positions. So it's like there's only a handful of teams that like you look around and you think, yeah, he could make that roster. You know, and I feel like Florida's not one of them just because they have their defensive situation relatively figured out. So I feel like if he's going to stay in the league, he kind of needs to be on a team that is lacking defensively, which also is kind of a double-edged sword because then it's just going to make his defensive stats look worse as they are.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Yeah.
I don't know if there's much for you guys to add to that, but
No, I got nothing else to add.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He kind of just lacks the physicality, I feel like. Yeah, he can move the puck decently, but like not at an elite level to be like, I don't know, on a team's power play one or anything like that. So it'll be tough. I think he'll find a team eventually, like maybe just on a bottom pair or whatever, just as a test, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, not much there.
Grant, I want to ask you, this is a show where we've watched the Blackhawks languish at the bottom of the standings for a while now. This was definitely supposed to be a season where many of us expected a step. We didn't really know what that step would look like. Obviously, I don't think many people were thinking that it was time for a playoff push here. But I think a lot of people looked at this season versus last season, the offseason moves that Kyle Davidson made, and expected some sort of jump in progression here. And obviously it hasn't happened. So, what do you think about maybe, we're a little over halfway through the season, how some of these moves Kyle Davidson made in the summer, and also with an eye towards this upcoming summer, is it, we've talked about trades and free agency and Mikko Rantanen here and Elias Pettersson and, all of these different things. And, I know you're very hip on, the prospects and stuff like that. And, Van Acker had 2 nice goals last night too. He looks like he's really coming back from that surgery.
You always clap if the OHL and Nick Lardis scores. I've noticed that.
Not a big deal. Yeah. Not a big deal.
Yeah, pretty cool.
42nd of the year, like, come on.
Yeah.
He's killing it.
Yeah.
So what do you think needs to happen here going forward? Maybe something that happens this season, like maybe before the trade deadline, and also with an eye towards the summer. What are you kind of feeling like needs to happen here with the Hawks?
Yeah, I think the big stuff is going to happen in the offseason. I think trade deadline things is kind of just selling off some, bottom guys. Like most of them aren't going to get much of a return, maybe a pick or so. But I think the big eye is just on the summer. Like you got to make a splash. Like this team, I mean, Davidson tried to do that with Teravainen and Bertuzzi. It obviously didn't really work out. Like Bertuzzi, just a tap-in merchant basically, and then Teravainen, former Hawk, which was nice, but like the D-man, it never really made sense. And the old veterans, like it just didn't really work. So, I mean, you definitely just have to make a splash, like a Rantanen, a Marner, one of those big guys for sure. And then obviously the draft will help because, we'll get a top 3-4 pick, I'm sure. So adding that with a big free agent signing should push them to at least a little bit of a next step. Whereas Davidson kind of thought that was going to be this season, even though, with the signings, it was like, didn't really seem like it in my eye that we were going to go that much better anyways. So I think, definitely just getting a big time free agent or 2, and then the draft, and then as well as other prospects coming in. I mean, Renzel could make the lineup next year, maybe. And then, another year of Leshnov probably in the AHL. Lardis could maybe make it, but he's probably in the AHL as well. But either way, I mean, the prospects are looking really good. So that's not really a concern. We're getting a high pick. So what is it if we get a few more wins? Then it's just a worse prospect that we draft. So I think we're still on the right path for sure.
Actually, I have a question here.
Okay.
I'm sorry to butt in.
Go ahead, Justin.
Me and Lee have kind of been in some sparring in terms of who to draft this year, right?
Yes.
James Higgins or Matthew Schaefer. If the Hawks have the first pick, who are you taking?
Honestly, like I feel like it's tough because if you're going out and getting a Rantanen, then I don't know, it kind of wouldn't make sense to get a Porter Martone probably. So maybe then I would lean towards Hagens over maybe Misa. But again, it kind of just depends on who you want to target in free A, because FA, sorry. But I mean, maybe you trade one of the D prospects and take Schaefer, but I'm really on more so you got to get a forward. I'm leaning towards Hagens probably. And
Okay.
then
Finally, somebody agrees with me.
and then, maybe if you don't get Ranson, Martone's there, I guess. But I think Hagen just brings it all, everything you kind of need. So I'd probably lean towards him.
Very nice.
So something that you brought up is hopefully getting one of these big free agents this summer. Elliot Friedman, obviously, this morning just announced that the cap is flying up the next couple years, which is awesome for the Blackhawks. But also that's pretty good for Toronto and Carolina, these teams who are going to be needing to either re-sign or let these big free agents walk. If we can't get one of these guys, how would you feel about going with like an offer sheet for a guy like, we have some names written down, but like a Wyatt Johnson or a Matthew Nyes or a Marco Rossi, Mark Lazarus for The Athletic reported something about how like that could be an option this summer. How would you feel about doing that if we can't get the big FAs?
I mean, it's definitely an option. Offer sheets are always really tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see Rossi and Johnson especially, I feel like there's no way their teams don't match them. Like Nyes, I feel like could make sense. Toronto's a bit up against the cap. He's a younger guy, so he fits the Hawks for sure. But I don't know if you really want to give up that big of draft capital because it has to be our own picks, I think, right? So it'd be for sure first. So I mean, I don't know. I think the Nyes could make sense. Johnson and Rossi, I think they're kind of just too good for their teams not to match or for the Hawks to really have a chance at getting them, though.
The picks that you give up are completely reliant on the size of the contract you offer, like how much money the guy makes. So I threw around the idea of hitting Wyatt Johnson with an offer sheet like a long time ago, just because I think at the very least, even if he doesn't sign and he just in Dallas matches, you make Dallas pay a little more than what they want. And, I think that's never a bad thing to make a Central Division foe do that. Because obviously Dallas is a contender now, but with the young talent they have, they probably are going to be for a while.
Yeah, and I mean, also like the Ben and Sagan contracts, I think are up soon too as well. So that'll be a little bit more cap relief plus the cap going up. So yeah, it definitely makes sense. If they can pay a little extra, it'll probably help us in the long run for their futures and adding more players to their team. So yeah.
So it felt like this season, Kyle Davidson brought in guys like Bertuzzi and Teravainen, sort of those guys in like that second tier, right? There were the reports he went after Jake Gensel and just missed out on him a little bit, ended up wanting to go to Tampa instead. Who could really blame him? No state tax, competitive hockey team. Are you kind of out on the idea, there's some guys that are sort of in that second and third tier, right? Do you want to see Kyle Davidson, if he does miss out, Rantanen and Marner and, some of these trade partners like the Miller or the Pettersson, end up on different hockey clubs? Are you interested in some more of these second tier guys and third tier guys to help beef up like the middle and bottom six? Or is it like, would you rather save those spots for some of these young kids to sort of come up and learn and make mistakes and maybe see if they're kind of fits in the NHL as opposed to being blocked off by veterans?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you kind of just got to go for the top dog, honestly. Obviously, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But like we have so many prospects in the system that'll be making their way on up here soon. And like if you're just getting in like middle six guys, will contribute like here and there, whatever, like that doesn't really help the team in the long term. So I think, obviously for sure, main priority is getting a big dog. And then I say let the prospects like just try and flourish, honestly. Give them the chance, put them in the top six on the power play where they're best fit, and then just let them see what we have in them, honestly. Because if you're just burying them on a bottom six role, like you can't really see like what their full potential will be. So I think, it kind of just depends on the player, honestly. But the main focus really needs to be the top guys for sure.
In terms of big dogs, who would be your preference? Are you a Rantanen guy, a Marner guy, somebody else guy? Like
Definitely Rantanen.
Yes. Would you give him a 7 by 15?
I mean, maybe 14, maybe try and get it down a little bit. But
Yeah.
I mean, the Hawks have the cap. I mean, it's tough because he's like what 29, 28 or something. So
Yeah.
so he's 34. It's not too bad. But I think it's worth it, honestly. Bedard needs a top end guy with
Mm.
him, stapled on his line, someone consistent who's gonna be able to put up points and not have to rely on him every game. So, I mean, I think Rantanen's the perfect player for that. He's physical, big body, can do it all. I mean, that would just be a perfect lineup for Bedard for sure.
Yeah, could be the Hosa edition.
I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
I think if you get Rantanen, it's gonna be because you're offering to pay him north of 14. Because then why would
Especially
he?
with this cap going up.
Yeah, well, why would he leave Carolina other than he wants more money? You know.
So I'll jump in here. Seth Jones is a really big talking point in this market. He's a lightning rod for criticism all the time. A lot of it has to do with the contract. There are reports that maybe he's not the best fit in the locker room either, and that sometimes, he can sort of rub some of the guys the wrong way. He's been playing well of late, but also every time he has a good game, a fan seems to use that as like a hit. And I'm pointing at you, Justin, a little bit, upping his trade value.
He can never win, right? You can never win. When he's playing too well, it's like always hurting the take, or like it's an excuse to get rid of him when he's not playing well. He's not living up to the contract. So from that standpoint, I do kind of feel bad for him, but not really. I mean, he's making the bank. So
what do you feel about the Hawks' highest paid defenseman right now? And what do you want to see them try and move off of the contract? Would you retain salary in order to do so? You think it's better for them to hang on to him? Like, what do you think about Jones?
It's tough because I mean, like, it kind of just depends on like what you get in return. Because like you're almost for sure gonna have to retain, and do you really want to strap the cap for the next, 5+ years on that cap when you're trying to be competing soon? So I think, I don't know, he's playing well right now, which is nice. But I mean, if you can get a return where maybe you don't have to retain as much and you can get something good in return, I guess, back, then maybe it's worth it. But it's just a tough situation because obviously way overpaid for sure. But I mean, I don't know. I think if anything's going to happen, it's going to be in the offseason. Nothing's going to happen this season and before the trade deadline. So this is an offseason thing, but I would be nice to see us move that contract. I think it's just too much, and we can maybe go out and get. I mean, we have so many defensive prospects who could come in, and maybe quarterback the power play. So if they can move it off without having to retain maybe too much and get a good return, then I think it would be worth it.
Would you add a sweetener if it meant you were able to unload the contract without retaining anything, and maybe sort of, the return back instead of, it being something tangible, it's maybe just cap space?
I don't know if I'd do that necessarily. I mean, he still has value, right? Like it's not just we're dumping off like some fourth line guy who doesn't do anything. Like
Yep.
he's still like he quarterbacks the power play. When he's on his game, he is good. He can play defense well, like defensively in that game. So I mean, I don't know if we should really be like I mean, I feel like we might have to if we really want to trade it, but without retaining. But I mean, I feel like he has the value to not have to just dump it off and not really get much in return.
I feel like that if the Hawks are gonna move him and that contract, I'd rather them throw something else in there as a sweetener in order to not retain. I think if you're going to move him, but you have to retain like 50%, there's no point of moving him.
Yeah.
I want to put together a little hypothetical for you. So let's say the Hawks don't get a big free agent this offseason. We don't get the first overall pick. We get like the second or third or fourth, whatever. What are your expectations for next season if those things don't go our way? And would you be interested in being involved in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes and being towards the bottom of the league next year?
No, not at all, honestly. Like
Oh, really?
we've been doing like this whole tank thing, the past
can't take a
3 years.
season.
If we do it next year again, like we really need to make some sort of progress here. Like I heard like Davidson's probably going to get fired if that's the case. I heard y'all talk about that. So I mean, yeah, that's what's going to happen. So I mean, cool. Yeah, he's his like cousin or whatever, but like, No, we need to be making progress here and not just sitting at the bottom of the barrel every season.
How perfect would it be if he was a 25 instead of 26? It's funny. We talked about this in the show. If he was available, I'd take him over anyone in this draft class. If
Yeah.
he's that
Oh,
good, I
yeah.
think he could play. I think he could play in the NHL next season. I think Betsy probably could have done the same in his draft year. So it's a shame that doesn't work out. That would have been perfect, but it is what it is. We're talking in hypotheticals here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of nice with like Schaefer being one because I feel like that gives the Hawks more options if they don't get the first pick. Because I feel like there's a good chance he's off the board first, and so at least we have options. If you want to go Hagens, Misa, Mortone, whatever, Martone, sorry. But I mean, that's what's kind of nice with having Schaefer in there because it gives the Blackhawks options. Also, with how they want to judge about going about free agency too. If they're getting a Ranton, like I said, maybe you don't get Martone, you get Hagens instead, and vice versa. So.
I want to throw in another hypothetical
yeah.
here. Let's say both of them play out. Let's say the Hawks get Higgins and get, I don't know, Mikko Rantanen, right? They get both that big fish in the draft and free agency. What are your expectations for the Hawks next year? Are they suddenly a playoff team, or are you just like you want to see progression, see them make that next step? How long away, I guess, the Hawks are from contending for that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's too early to say, oh yeah, we're a bona fide playoff team,
Yeah.
The team's still young. Like, yeah, we get a big fish, we get a good draft, but obviously it could easily happen, you never know. But I think we just got to see progress here. Like, we should be at least battling for a playoff spot, past December, into the new year. We should be at least in the race in some aspect. We need to not be at the very bottom
Yeah.
like we have in the past few years. So I wouldn't say we should, oh yeah, we have to make the playoffs or it's a bust. But we have to see progress. That's really just what you gotta see.
Yeah, can't be a lotto team again. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just being more competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The season ends. Anders Sorensen goes wherever, not really, wherever he may go, whatever he may do. Wish him the best.
Cleveland Red Star.
Do you?
Ni hao, ni hao.
Stop. He's not that bad. Do you have anybody? Is there anybody that you have your eye on? Any coaching candidates that you would really like? Do you feel like we want someone new? Do you want an experienced coach? How do you feel about the coaching situation?
David Carl.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's Carlisle, and it's not really close, honestly.
Oh,
Like
okay.
we should be throwing everything at him. Like I feel like let him bring his own staff, let him bring his guys who he wants. I mean, we've had, Derek King there and maybe some of the other assistants for a little bit, so they can honestly go. Let him do what he wants, let him run things. He's had success everywhere he's gone. He's a winner. That's who we need to bring in. He's good with young players as well, so I feel like that's just a perfect fit for the Blackhawks.
So you don't mind
Couldn't
that
have said
it's
it better myself.
so you don't mind that it's an inexperienced guy. We had Greg Boysen of formerly of CHGO, but he came on and brought up Mike Sullivan too, which I thought was a pretty interesting, name. And there that is the discussion here. Is it an inexperienced guy, like you're giving another guy his first kick at the can at being an NHL head coach, or you're getting a guy who's been there, done that, right?
Yeah, I mean, Sullivan also I would be fine with that as well.
Okay.
But I mean, I feel like with like Jim Montgomery, like he kind of made that jump too. He was like in college and then he kind of jumped over and he had success like right away. So I feel like it's possible, we could have that same type of thing where they just come over and I mean, that's just who they are as coaches. Like they're just winners. So, and we're not just getting some like AHL coach who just got promoted or someone who's just been like an assistant or whatever. Like he's been head coach. He's done this for a good bit. He's won basically everywhere he's been. So I think it's okay since he's not an NHL experienced coach. He's still an experienced coach. So I think it would still work.
So there is no salary cap on coaches, which is one of the better parts about the NHL. There's been some discussions, a going rate for an NHL head coach in his first coaching opportunity is generally between $1 to $2 million a season. There are reports that it would take a higher price point than that to pull David Carl from Denver, not because that's what he's making at Denver, but just because he's so comfortable there. Would you go so far? And I don't know, this is probably a higher up this is probably a Wirtz decision,
Yeah.
right? But like, would you go as high as 5 times 5 for David Carl?
I mean, honestly, yeah. Like, honestly, do whatever you can to get him. Like, these coaches don't come around that often, I feel like, where they have this much success at the college level when they're trying, maybe make that jump, even in juniors too. Like, I feel like you got to do whatever you can. Throw the house at him, give him a blank check, let him write whatever he wants, and then, I think it's just a perfect fit. So do whatever you have to do to get him as the head coach of the Hawks.
I agree with that sentiment. I think every Blackhawk fan, especially every fan that would want David Carl, is going to say that. Because I feel the same way. I do feel like he is kind of inevitable. Like, I don't know if I buy the fact that he's going to get to the NHL and then all of a sudden not be a good coach anymore. I know he's young, and I know that if you give him a bigger contract, that kind of, it doesn't put a target on his back, but it does add a little bit of pressure. It's, it's the Seth Jones effect. It's, if you pay him, as much or more than, experience proven NHL coaches, there's going to be some questions, but I still think you do it. I just don't know if the Blackhawks will.
That's what I'm saying.
I feel like this organization has been one that has nickel and dimed everywhere across the board the past, however many years. So.
It doesn't make sense because we're the freaking Chicago Blackhawks. We're a big market team. Like, we should be spending that money. So I don't really understand it. What needs to change there? But you would think that would be the case this offseason. That would be different, especially with the cap going up and everything, that philosophy will change. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Original Six, big market. Like, I mean, this is a place where people, like, it's not like Buffalo or whatever, like, people don't want to go there. Like, people, like, it's a hockey town. Fans are great. People want to be in Chicago, like, playing for the Blackhawks, Original Six team. So there's a lot of, like, little factors you can throw in that'll, sway their decision. But I mean, I think they just got to do whatever they can to get him. Like, it's just too perfect of a fit.
It's a bit of a different question, but I know you're a big prospect guy, and we're big prospect guys on this show. Who are some of your favorites in the Hawks organization? I know you brought up some, but if you look at next year's team, I think you kind of already brought it up, but who are some of the prospects you're most looking forward to seeing coming to this team the next few years? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Lardis for sure. I mean, he's going crazy, honestly. And I didn't really know much about Bravois from, playing at North Dakota, but man, he is just, I mean, he's a freshman. He's been getting like rookie awards like every like other month or whatever. I mean, he's playing everywhere. He's a perfect two-way center. Like, he's one that's really, really, I really like watching him. Obviously Renzel's look great. We have like five guys, up for the Hobie Baker right now. And then obviously Kanstrov, I mean, he's kind of like an under the radar guy, but I mean, he's just killing it in the KHL right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, if we can get him to come over, like, that could be a really good fit for our top six for sure.
Yeah, I keep hearing all this noise about Ivan Demino, but nobody talks about Roman Kanstrov. He's putting up identical numbers. So I don't really get what that's all about. Yeah, it would be nice if they could get him out of that contract. We see him next year, but we're probably going to have to wait a year, unfortunately. Yeah.
Now that we're a couple years removed from the trade, I know that what we got in return are still prospects and haven't reached the NHL level. But you just mentioned Boisvert, Oliver Moore was the other guy. The Brandon Hagel trade to Tampa Bay a couple years ago, obviously, as I just mentioned, Moore and Boisvert have not obviously played a single game in the NHL yet. But at this point, how do you feel about that trade?
It's so tough because you gotta wait and let these guys see what they turn into. Because I mean, Hagel, I honestly, when we traded him, I thought, this is a great trade. Like, it was just kind of the fit here that worked, but he really like has turned it on in Tampa as well. So it's tough. It's tough to lose him, honestly, with how well he's playing in Tampa. But I mean, it's too early to judge, in my opinion. You just gotta wait and see like what these guys have done. I think the Hawks did well. Like, we got some good pieces in return. Obviously, Radishik, Kachuk, like whatever throwaways, but the picks, they seem to be solid prospects right now. So just gotta wait and let it play out and see how they progress as prospects and if they can make that jump to the NHL.
Yeah, I think the trade's going to go down as a win-win, right? Especially if Moore and Boisvert produce. Like, I think for both sides, they'll be happy. I'm just glad they got something back like that for Hagel. I was more upset that offseason they didn't get back anything for Dylan Strome and just let him walk in free agency. And look what he's become in Washington. I'd say I would agree with most of the moves KD's made, but that one, I'd say, definitely one of the ones that got away for sure. But I understand why I had to move on from him, but probably could have got something back. But anyway, that's a bit of a different story. Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like it's a common theme for like Blackhawks fans, people who follow the team a little bit, to be like, oh, you let go of Hagel, Kane, DeBrincat,
You had to do
Strome.
it.
Like, if you had those guys now, you'd be talking about. It's like
You wouldn't have Bedard.
Yeah, if we had those guys now, we wouldn't have half this prospect pool. So it's like chicken or the egg. It's like, what are we even talking about?
We were stuck in mid with that core. We weren't going anywhere. Like Davidson did what he had to do, and I think for the most part he's gotten back, good returns. Especially look at DeBrincat as well. Lasted one season in Ottawa. We got back Korchinski, Lewinsky, etc. So
Yeah.
Grant, you've been really generous with your time. We'd love to have you back on whenever you want to come on. You're more than welcome to hop on as a guest. With anything you want to get off your chest before we let you go?
Yeah, Dad, plug your stuff. Yeah, tell us how'd you get into Blackhawks Insider. How about one more thing? Like you've been collabing with all these pages, like the OHL and stuff. When like Hawks prospects
Dude,
are producing.
I know,
How did that come along?
When's the Chicago Hockey Radio collab coming?
It was like just so out of the blue. Like I just randomly get like a notification, OHL tagged you in a post. I'm like, what? I'm like, I mean, sure. Like, why not? So they just come to me, I guess. Like,
there you go.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, Blackhawks Insider on Instagram. Yeah, check it out. Thanks for having me on. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, dude.
One of the best at what he does. So thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. All right, Raven nailed the transition one way. Can he nail it the other? We're gonna find out here momentarily. Can we? Oh, yeah, right on.
I think he did it. Wow, Raven's
he's
cooking today.
I think he might.
There we go.
There you go.
Very nice.
2 for
Well
2.
done, Raven. Yeah,
2 for 2.
That's what we do. That's what he does.
Yeah, right on, dude.
Really enjoy listening to him. I've been wanting to hear his thoughts for a while because I've been DMing him for so long on Instagram, and now I finally get to see him in the flesh. Well, kind of on the screen, but close enough. And knows his stuff, man. Definitely love to have him back as a guest sometime. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, we need to do. We just need to continue to get the other people in the Blackhawks coverage stratosphere.
I'll start bringing some of my meme friends along with me. I'll see if I can get some more guests like that for sure. Definitely some people I could reach out to.
Yeah. Totally. I was like kind of kidding, but also kind of not. I was like, when's the Chicago Hockey Radio collab coming? I would love to be included in that at some point here with our socials. But Justin, we'll do Friday mailbag on the front end of NHL Hour when we come back from a break. But did you want to do Pat Maroon Spit and Chicklets interview? I know you said you finally watched it. I didn't watch it. I assume Lee didn't.
I did. I watched,
oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay, fine. Then good. You two can discuss away. I don't know what you guys have to say.
Well, I touched on it a little bit. I talked about the game changing yesterday, the post game. I thought the biggest takeaway for me, and this I think ties back to the Hawks' future because I know his name's kind of been. We don't really know what his future is at the Hawks. A guy like Lucas Reichel, Pat Maroon had so much good things to say about him. He's kind of been his mentor, right? He brought him along in the St. Louis, with his family over Christmas break, and he's like he's kind of taken on this role, this fourth line role for most of the season, just kind of paying his dues, right? He's become a smarter player, right? Kind of. And I think he's going to benefit from that in the long run. I think that's what Maroon said, right? He's playing the game a lot smarter, right? Adapting to the NHL much more this season compared to last. And I think he said he's going to be a stud. Like he has all the tools for a young player. I think, he's getting more of that ice time now. He's getting some more responsibilities in the special teams. I think that's going to benefit him in the long run. So for the Hawks, hang on to this guy. Be patient, Lucas Reichel, because he's still only 22 years old. He's got a ton of talent. He might never be the star that you thought, but I think he could still be a valuable piece, middle six guy, maybe even second liner for the Hawks. So just hearing Pat Maroon say that, I think a lot of good things to say about Reichel. It's good to see.
Yeah, the whole interview just made me realize like how awesome of a dude Pat Maroon is. Just like quality of human being, good father, and also just like a funny guy. The Philly story was really interesting, how he kind of like messed up a little bit there and how it didn't work out. And it's kind of funny to think about now because it's like that guy really is the embodiment of what Philadelphia Flyer hockey is like supposed to be. So pretty interesting that it didn't work out for him there. But something that he like harped on a lot was just like taking your licks. Like he talked about how he got sent down to the AHL a couple times and was like playing really well in the AHL and felt like he was getting slighted. But he just talked about how you could just like as a young player, you have to endure that. And when you do, you'll be better off for it. And that perspective, I think, is absolutely perfect to have in this locker room with all the young talent we have. It's not just Reichel, but it's guys like Del Mastro and Korchinski and Nazar, but like some of these guys that have, gone up and then gone back down. Just knowing that he's a presence in the locker room this season, that is, I would assume has been, preaching that to these young kids that's worth the signing, honestly, in my opinion. That's
it's worth it for his off the ice, on the ice, but off the ice, he's a great guy, good veteran presence in the locker room. We could see he has a good positive effect on these young players. So that's what it's all about, paying it back, right? That's what you do in hockey. He's been in that position, he's been there, done that, so he can relate for sure.
Yeah.
One more thing before we head to NHL, though. Did you all see that Sherwood clip of Bedard? They asked him a question. If he wasn't a hockey player, what would his job be? And he said he'd be a podcaster. I don't know, guys. We may have to reach out to Betsy there and bring him along to CHR.
Yeah, guys,
Sounds
so
like he wants to be a guest.
Next Friday, we have a very special guest that we're going to be announcing later. No, that'd be so sick, though.
That's the dream, man. That'll be the climax. We'll get there, man. I feel like he'd be a great guest, man. Just talking this shit. We're not quite there. Yeah, I'm a climax. We're not quite there yet, but we'll get there.
Oh my gosh, I'm watching this clip right now. He really said that.
Yeah.
He did. I wasn't joking. Yeah.
We're going to get him on the show eventually. Couple
We will
years,
get to
maybe.
that point. Yeah, I know.
Like, obviously, he's going to be on the show.
Like a sports show, he's saying, like him and his buddies, football, basketball. That'd be really funny, dude.
I want to bring back those. Yeah, I want to bring back those Instagram lives he did before the season, where he just talked like sports and shit with his friends. There, that was fun. I think he'd just be good at that, like being a guest on a pod. So we'll get there, right? As long as he doesn't know who I am, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to pop on, right?
Yeah. No, you can know who you are, just not the things you've said.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've said only positive things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It is only positive things, but it doesn't help your case that every time we bring it up, you say things like you're gonna climax. It doesn't exactly help your case with Bedsy, but I think once we're a couple,
I take it as an honor.
Oh my god! I think once we're a couple years removed from some of those quotes, it'll be perfectly fine. We'll have them on, and it'll be an amazing time.
I agree. I think it'd be an incredible time.
All right. Should we take a little break here? Do you guys have anything else you needed to get off your chest, or we want to go? There's so much to talk about in NHL.
We have so much more to get to. We have like half the show left. Yeah.
This is going to be a true NHL hour. So stick around. We'll be back in just a second.
Check. Welcome back. NHL Hour, Chicago Hockey Radio. Bringing it to you right here. Justin Lynch, Lee Grossman, and Tassos Kirkos. Really nice having Blackhawks insider Grant on with us. Still don't know his last name, but that's okay.
Beauty.
Grant Insider.
Grant Insider. Yeah, that's his last name. Thanks to him for coming on. Everybody go check out his page. He's really tapped into the Blackhawk stuff. And yeah, we mentioned the cool collabs he does with like the OHL and all these other fun ones. So yeah, thanks to him for coming by. Let's do some questions. Do you guys want to get into some questions here? We said we'd kick off NHL Hour with this.
Let's get into it.
I'm good
Question.
Friday question mailbag. Remember to send in questions to us. You can do it via 2 ways. 1, Instagram DM. 2, hop in our Discord. Join the Discord. You should. I mean, if you're an active listener of this show, you should be in the Discord. It's a nice little space for our community of listeners to get together, talk about some stuff. You guys have conversations in there all the time, which is super cool. And that is a good place to deposit some questions. So I will start off with one from Instagram DMs, and this is kind of a fun one. Question for Friday. Let's say hypothetically the Hawks got a crazy amount of luck and won a draft lottery back in 2016, 2017-ish, and the number 1 pick was Bedard. Do you think some of that prime core is still there, and guys like DeBrincat, Panarin, and that the Hawks would have been able to win a few more cups?
To answer your question, yes. I mean, that's just my initial reaction to that. Oh boy, could you imagine that? That's one of the things I hate that we missed out on. I hate that we missed out on Bedsy and Kane, but like, could you imagine Bedsy and prime Kane? Because Bedsy and prime Kane is a lot different than Bedsy post-hip Kane. Taser, DeBrincat could have been a Hawk for life. Panarin maybe. That's the thing. People forget about that. We did draft DeBrincat when we still had Panarin, but they never played together as Blackhawks, right? So how does that 2017 offseason change if that happens? I mean, I think because Bowman obviously tried to retool and that didn't work out. They called it a rebuild, but that wasn't a rebuild. They tried a retooling and it failed. But I think if they had a Bedsy back then to kind of keep the minute there, that would have been, they could have gone on a few more runs and brought some more cups home for the Kane Taze era. Yeah. You don't seem as sold.
Well, I think when people talk about like the Artemi Panarin situation, they act like we just like didn't want him. Like there were financial constraints back then. You had Keith, Seabrook, Kane, Taze all tied to these big deals.
But they had just extended him though. But they had just extended him though. It wasn't like he was like due. I mean, I think maybe until the next season then. But
yeah, it was because we were gonna have to pay him the following year. It wasn't because like they just wanted Panarin for Saj straight up. It was because we knew we weren't going to be able to give another guy $8-10+ million. So I think that people kind of forget that. And,
clearly, I'm one of those people.
It's not, it's kind of the same thing as we just mentioned on the Blackhawks Hour. How like yes, if you had Strome, DeBrincat, Kane, and Hagel magically on this team right now, it would be very nice. But you wouldn't get to this point if it weren't for that. But yeah, I mean, if you had Bedard, obviously, I think Kane and Taze both had career years after 2015. So like, obviously that would have been sick to have Bedard on ELC in that like 16, 17, 18 window. Yeah, but dude, I don't know. Like that final series against Nashville when we got swept, it was just
it's depressing, man. Like you could kind of feel it was over at that point.
We kind of just got beat up. I don't know if like a Bedard, I don't know if a rookie year 18-year-old, 19-year-old Bedard moves the needle enough to like win that series.
But like, look at what Bedsy did with no help. Imagine what rookie year could have had with those guys on his flanks. He could have had like a 2005 Crosby type of season. That could have been all they needed, maybe. Yeah.
It's true though. Yeah, just that 1 year. Like if we had him in 16 when we still had Panarin, that would have been special because then you could have had like Kane Panarin, and then it would have been what like Taze Bedard like on the first line. Like that would have been crazy. You would have had an insane 1-2 punch. But I mean,
you could have moved Bedsy to the wing and then Kane. You literally could have had a Bedard Taze Kane line.
Yeah,
dude.
It would have been insane. That was a great hypothetical question.
Yeah, we have.
How do you even think of that? Yeah, he was on something when he thought of that question.
I thought he was going to say if we got like McDavid
Matthews
or Matthews, I would have been like, well, yeah.
Really fun questions today, actually. All right, next one. What's with the young Hawks D-men taking penalties? Just young D-men being experienced? Nolan Allen had a game, I think, where he had a couple, and Del Mastro had one against the Wild on Sunday. What is with the young Hawks D taking penalties?
Yeah, I think you answered the question. The answer is within the question. They're young defensemen in the NHL. Like that tends to happen. You take more penalties as you're adjusting to the national, right? So there's nothing really new there. I think it's necessary, right, to learn, make those mistakes and grow from them. So they'll make those mistakes less in the future, take less penalties.
Yeah, I think when you're like a step behind or reacting to things a little late or slightly out of position, penalties are going to come when you're in those situations. So I think it's because of that.
I'd love to see what the penalties are. Like if it's a lot of like stick penalties, which always do mean that you're
and use your body then.
But yeah, learn to use your body a little bit. I wonder if it's like a lot of tripping penalties. I don't have like the full penalty breakdown for all of these guys, but I would assume it's a lot of like stick penalties and stuff like that. And just adjusting to the speed of the National Hockey League for sure. Which of the young guys have surprised you the most, good or bad? For example, I don't think many people assumed Doc would be impactful this year.
Honestly, I would say Nolan Allen because he's been at the squad pretty much the entire season. Like, I only know if I envision him as part of this core going into this season. I kind of thought he may have been an odd man out there, just the amount of defensive prospects we had. I know he had a good season in Rockford last year, but like his season this year has reminded me so much of Alex Vlasic last season. I'm not saying it's going to be Alex Vlasic. I think he's more of a third pair guy, whereas Vlasic probably second pair, where good, maybe even top pair. But he's just been so solid, so smooth. Not perfect. He's made those mistakes, which you'd expect, but I think for the most part he's been really solid, really smooth on that back end. So I'd say I didn't really expect that. So I would say he's been the guy I've been most impressed with, or maybe surprised with of the young guys for sure, outside of the obvious ones. Yeah,
I'm gonna be basic and give an obvious one. I had no clue Frank Nazar was as good as he is two-way. Like
I'm not really surprised.
I knew he was fast. I knew he had offensive skill, but I didn't realize how promising of a two-way guy that he's shaping out to be. I'm absolutely presently surprised with how good Frank Nazar has been outside of last night. Last night was his worst game.
That was an outlier, but it's going to happen. I think it's necessary to have those games as a young player. You've been on such a roll lately. I think a game like that was kind of due. It happens to everybody. So I guarantee you he'll bounce back tomorrow. Like that's the Bjork being certified. He'll get something going tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully it's like a kick in the butt,
that he needed.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to take my answer from the question. I'm going to say Colton Dach. I didn't really know, and we haven't seen a ton of him yet in the NHL. He's still in his first dozen games. I don't even think he's probably played 10 yet. But when the Hawks drafted this kid, I always thought it was like just like a nice story kind of thing, like because Kirby was in the organization at the time, and like akin to the Avs, they drafted Taylor McCarr, Cale McCarr's younger brother.
And like when they brought in Seth, they also brought in Caleb Jones.
Yeah. I mean, but Caleb was an NHL player at the time. To be fair. But I didn't actually think that Colton Dach had a ton of NHL upside. Like I thought he would be maybe a call-up guy, like an AHL, NHL tweener at best. But the more I watch him, the more I'm like, okay, this guy can carve out a role for himself. He can be an impactful NHL player. Do I think he's like, going to be a huge scorer? Probably not. But I think, honestly, on the high end, he could probably hover somewhere between like the 35 to 45 point range in the NHL, which I think would be a steal for where, I don't know exactly, where did the Hawks draft him? Was he a third round?
I think he was late second round. I think like 60 something. But I think he's one of the guys that kind of Pat Maroon referred to the Spin Chicklets episode, like just kind of a guy who hangs around the bottom six and makes a solid career of himself, right? For sure. And that's good to see. He plays the game the right way. I think we've talked about a lot in this show, like very physical, smart, and just has that hockey IQ, right? Maybe not the talent of his brother, but he looks like an NHL player to me, for sure.
Second round, 62 overall.
Boom. I knew he was around that range.
Yeah, and he just, even last night, for example, like he draws the penalty just by being aggressive and hard to play against, and being a bit of a what disturber, and
almost had a goal. Had that takeaway, and Kochekov's clear, and almost scored there as well. I think he definitely took that scratch person. Hopefully, he won't get scratched again anytime soon. Yeah.
he probably would be a pretty good complementary player to his brother. You know, I feel like he does all the things that his brother
That he doesn't
didn't.
do.
Yeah.
Exactly right. But we'll never see it. Well, at least at the Hawks, yeah.
Okay, 2 more here. You are Kyle Davidson. You're looking to move Mrazek before the trade deadline. What is your minimum return? Playoff teams that need a backup only.
For Mrazek, I'd just be happy to get rid of him. Like in terms of return, like I don't think I'm really expecting much there. I think just if anything, it would just allow us to solve this kind of goalie conundrum that we're in a little bit, right? Allow Soto to become the starter. So yeah, I mean, just I don't know, draft picks. I mean, we have a lot of draft capital. It's nothing really new there.
We'll take more.
I wouldn't really expect. You can always ship them, right? More draft picks isn't always. It's not a bad thing. You can't really have enough of that with where we're at right now. You're not going to use all of them. You're not going to use draft all those players those picks. You can always use them to trade up or get assets in return. So it's never a bad thing to have surplus. Yeah.
Yeah, to add on to that, yeah, I'd take any sort of draft pick or like a prospect that is you're kind of really rolling the dice on that like maybe hasn't been too promising, needs a change of scenery, something like that. Just add another one. Why
it's
not?
Tough. If this was last year, I'd say Mrazek would have had a decent amount of value for return when we were considering extending him or not. Yeah. But this right season, now, I feel like all that value has kind of gone out the window. So maybe that was a mistake. And I feel like a lot of those guys have had kind of Dickinson too hasn't really had the season he had last year. We extended him. I'd say the one guy has probably lived up to that deal just because he's the captain. I think he's had a pretty similar season as Nick Foligno of those 3 guys that were extended in January last year. So those 4.5s. Yeah.
So the question asked playoff teams that need a backup only. I'm trying to think of playoff teams that need a backup.
Like Edmonton or something.
Well, you know what? Like Calvin Pickard's been really good there. In reality, Calvin Pickard's probably been better than Stuart Skinner at times, especially lately. He's on kind of a good run right now. Tampa's one that comes to mind for me. Vegas is one that comes to mind for me. Would you even entertain just a swap of goalies? Mrazek for Ilya Samsonov. I know Samsonov's just he's on a 1-year deal, so you can let him walk, right? But maybe you could see if there's something there. I know maybe we kind of already know what Ilya Samsonov is at this point, but maybe it doesn't hurt to give him a look in a situation where he's facing a ton of shots and he's expected to be the guy.
Maybe a reunion in Carolina because their goalie situation. Yeah, boom. He was really good there, right?
Yeah. Maybe you're looking at Columbus right now. That's an option too. Merzlik. They've been winning almost in spite of Elvis Merzlikins a little bit, and they've got some young kids. Like I'm really high on Jet Greaves in their organization. They've also got the Russian kid Daniel Tarasov. But maybe you're able to pry one of those guys away in order to give him to Columbus, something like that.
They're such an interesting situation in Columbus because are they currently in wildcard 2 spot right now, if I'm not mistaken?
I'll double check for you.
They're in that range.
Yeah, but even if they're not, dude, they have the most cap space in the league currently, like right now this season.
It's like over $20 million.
It's more than that. I want to say it's like 40.
No,
and they could buy. Like who would have thought that they'd be in a situation to buy at the trade deadline? But they absolutely are. So yeah. Hawks are a team they've traded a lot with in the past.
And I know that they've got a really young team, 46.75.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
They have so many Russians on that team too. Yeah, you brought up a Russian kid. They have a few of them over there. They've had good seasons.
Their projected's only 18. I mean, only 18. That's still a ton. But yeah, I know they're a young team and they're obviously not going to be looking to jeopardize that. But I mean, you could add some rentals to that squad, no doubt, if you wanted to. Just it's going to be how serious do they feel about this team this year?
Most salary cap in the league, you say. I think I'm on that trade. Let's get a Seth Jones reunion to Columbus. No salary retention. Boom.
Thank you. Finally, somebody's listening.
I can see it now. I see the vision. Yeah, get it back for Wierenski over there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why not? If you're Columbus, just take on some salary. Excite the fan base a little bit. All right, last question. And this is actually the most fun one, so I'm glad I saved this one for last. Do you guys have any fun or interesting ways to make hockey better? For example, I've always said that they should raise the height of the glass by a foot or two to keep the game moving. I always hate when a team has so much momentum and the puck barely touches the netting and they have to stop play. I'd be curious if you guys had any ideas for making the game more entertaining or a way to make the game reach more people.
I'd say the first thing I'd do is some casuals might not like this, but I hate it. I can't stand it. I abolish the shootout. Instead of 5 minutes, 3-on-3, I make it 10. If nobody scores after 10, then, well, unfortunately, I guess we're bringing back the tie. But or maybe in that case, we keep the shootout just for those. You won't see a lot of shootouts after 10 minutes of 3-on-3 action. So you just see less and less of it, which, to be fair, we've already kind of seen some shootouts since the 3-on-3, I think, for a reason, right? The NHL clearly is trying to phase that out a little bit. So I'd say that would be one move I'd make. But I like that one as well, right? I think the less stoppages, the better. Keep the game flowing. Anything you do to make that happen, I'm all for that.
I would love to hear what the chat says while we're answering this question. Like, if you guys have any ways that, maybe rule ideas or different kinds of things that you would like to see in hockey, throw it in the chat right now, and let's see what we can come up with here.
I love the 3-on-3. Like, I think the NHL absolutely cooked with that. The overtimes are so much more entertaining for that aspect. I'd rather watch that than the skills competition that is the shootout. Yeah.
With the overtime thing, just make it like the postseason. It's just you keep doing 5-minute periods of 3-on-3 until someone scores. Boom. Not a big deal.
Yeah,
you're not going to get
agree,
through three periods of 3-on-3. Like
you wouldn't think, but there might be some outliers there. Then you have these continuous regular season games that like extend way into the time windows. I'm sure they'd be worried about that.
Especially when you have a back-to-back with travel too. You know what I mean? The PA wouldn't allow it.
Don't care.
And they play differently too if they knew it just
you
keep
don't
going,
care,
right?
but the PA wouldn't allow it. Is what I'm telling you.
Dude, I mean, you already have it in the playoffs. It would happen. I feel like it would rarely happen, and when it did, it would be a massive story. You'd have all these people talking about it. That's a win, in my opinion. For myself, I feel like I've talked about a lot of these types of things on the show. I think you should have the Winter Classic be on Christmas. I know there's something contractually that like the players agreed to not play on Christmas. Just make it one game, the Winter Classic on Christmas every year. It's a snowy holiday. All these other leagues are trying to get their stuff on Christmas. Play on Christmas. Play the Winter Classic on Christmas and play big slates on Friday. Stop having massive slates on Tuesday and Saturdays. Have a big slate on Friday. What else?
I have a couple of things. I
have one more thing too.
You first. First.
Actually, this might not be a popular opinion, but I do feel like the Winter Classic has lost its luster a little bit in recent years. I think a big part of this, I think it should be the only outdoor game, right? I don't think the Stadium Series, I feel like, isn't really it. I think I liked the idea when it first came out, but now it's like nobody really seems to care. I don't know if I do the Stadium Series anymore. Like, let's put more hype into the Winter Classic. Like, this used to be, when this came into it, like the Super Bowl of the NHL, and now I feel like it's just like another game, but slightly bigger. So I'd do anything you can to make that event bigger, in addition to what Lee said, right? I think it should be the only outdoor game of the season. That might not be a popular opinion, but that's mine. Yeah.
So to piggyback, because I have some different thoughts here. If we're talking about OT and abolishing the shootout and trying to make games end in the 3-on-3 overtime, you have to kill the neutral zone regroups. So I think if you carry the puck over the red line, if you curl back with it, you get a 2-minute delay of game penalty.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So it's like a basketball thing where you can't go back in after.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah. So that would be a way to sort of, instead of this continuous 3-on-3 overtime, which will never happen, like that would be the way you could do it, is you make it a delay of game if they curl back across the red line. So that's one that I have. Another one that I think is kind of interesting. I don't know how in love I am with it, but I love that, I'm a big fan of the PWHL. I am on the train very much so that Chicago needs to have a PWHL franchise. I think the city is too big into sports and women's sports in a hockey city that, like you could really make an exciting product here. And I like that the
Chicago
PWHL,
Cougars.
Yeah, I like that the PWHL uses opportunities to try out different things, right? So a rule that they've had since the start of the league last season was that the penalty kill, it's a true penalty kill. So if you score shorthanded when you're on the penalty kill, your player comes out of the box. I think that's a really cool rule. They call it the power kill, but that's like the true definition of a penalty kill, right? Like you're killing the penalty. You scored shorthanded, you killed the penalty. The player comes out of the box. So I like that. I don't know how it would necessarily work in the NHL. And like I said, I don't even know if I'd really love to see it in the NHL. Another thing you could do, or do you guys have thoughts on that? But
I have another idea. It might be what you're going to bring up. Actually,
so what I was going to say also about the penalty kill, if anybody doesn't like that idea, why is it that you're allowed to ice the puck when you're on the penalty kill, but no other time during the game? Right?
It does seem a little arbitrary.
A penalty kill is supposed to be a disadvantage for your hockey team, yet you get the advantage of being able to clear the puck the length of the ice. I think you shouldn't be able to ice the puck on the penalty kill too. That would be imagine how much tougher that would make actually killing a penalty.
Yeah, but then
and I have another idea to make the penalty kill even more of a disadvantage. How about you score in the power play, the player doesn't get out of the box. You get the full 2 minutes every time.
That's an idea.
4 minutes every time. That happens with the majors, right? How about let's keep that rolling, right? I mean, the full 2 minutes, no matter what happens, you get to use it. You get to score multiple goals in the power play.
Problem with those changes is it's completely changing the game. The power play becomes everything then. And I think it disproportionately favors teams with really good power plays. Because then it's like the Edmonton Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche are gonna score at like an 80% clip on the power play. Like that's not
then the refs gotta crack down, not call everything, right? Less power plays to balance it out, right? Because I do feel like the refs call way too much nowadays. It feels like it's got a little soft from that standpoint, so maybe they need to look at the rule book a little bit more. Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to see in hockey is I like another thing I'm going to pull from the PWHL, the standings points. I feel like I've brought this up on the show before. You should get 3 points for a regulation win, 0 for a regulation loss, 2 for an overtime win, and 1 for an overtime or shootout loss, right? Make it a 3-2-1-0 sort of situation.
I would propose getting rid of the overtime loss points. Like, you lost the game, why should you get any benefit for that? A lot of these teams mooch off of those OTL shootout losses, like, the Canucks and Islanders the past few seasons. Like, you don't have to win a ton of games, but if you just kind of get past those 60 minutes, you get rewarded for it. No more loser points, no more participation trophies. You win the game, you get points. You lose the game, I don't think you should get any benefit from that just because you made it 60 minutes.
Thomas in chat just beat me to it. It's what I was just trying to say. Go back to the 1 versus 8 playoff seeding.
We've been talking about that so much. Yeah.
Just so that, you keep the good teams in it longer. You're not having like these crazy first round matchups that are 2 contenders. Like, I know that the league wants parity, but in the hunt for parity, you end up having the same first round matchups every single year. It's just not good. I don't think it's good for the league. You've been pretty adamant about the league being starving for parity too much a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I think this cap situation helps that.
Oh boy, is that we're gonna get? Oh, do you have more questions? Or we're gonna start getting into that?
No. I mean, that is the last question. I was just gonna read some of other people's suggestions. I think some people liked my idea of like you can't curl back over the red line after overtime. Otherwise it's a delay of game. Somebody said replace all the sticks with ringette sticks. That's a pretty funny one. You guys know what ringette is? No,
I've never heard of it.
Really, you've never heard of ringette?
No.
It's a game in Canada. It's like a precursor to women's hockey. You basically, the puck is like a ring, and like it's a circle, right? And but it's like
precious.
It's like a ring, and you use like a stick that doesn't have a blade on it. And you like look up clips of ringette.
No blade?
Flinging them around.
No blades.
So just God, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, obviously that was a joke that somebody put in there.
Hell no.
Said God, no.
I used to use that move in the shootout, right? I just used the tip of the blade and move the puck like that. That's like the one cool thing I can do.
That's essentially that's what ringette is, kind of. And in Canada, if you ever like have been to like a hockey rink in Canada, they have like what's called the ringette line, which just like stretches. It's a line that stretches across the top of the offensive zone face-off circles. So it just like goes across, and it's called the ringette line. And that was something I found out like within the last 2 years when I was running a practice up in Canada. And they were, one of the coaches I was working with was like, line up on the ringette line. I was like, what are we talking about here? But somebody said, make the puck white.
Racist.
I can't see the puck.
I can't see the puck. Yeah, we'll get all these. Some of these are funny. Like, Raven said they should use wood sticks in overtime. I feel like that'd create less goals. Yeah, I
Screw it.
think
Let's just make it more like basketball, right? You can't go past the red line. Let's just introduce a shot clock while we're at it. Once you're in the blue line, right? You can't advance past that, and you have like 1 minute to put the shot on it. Nah, I'm just kidding. That's a stupid idea.
That would be a Hawks killer because we never put the puck on the net.
We never have possession, so it forces us to shoot it, right? Oh,
that was a really fun question, though.
was a
That
great
that was awesome.
And also, his suggestion of raising the glass is
That's a great
excellent
one. Yeah.
Like very
yeah, that's pretty
practical.
feasible too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
You're
you
not
don't need
changing
just
the
like
game.
miles of netting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not really changing like the things we talked about. You're like changing components in the game.
Yeah.
You know, that's just like a 2 feet addition to the glass to like keep the puck in play. I think that's a great idea, actually. All right, where do you guys want to go from here? You guys want to go salary cap discussion?
I think it's the biggest
Salary
subject.
cap is dry. Also rising, hearing that news. That is big news for the Blackhawks, right? You would think for these big market teams, especially the ones with salary cap available, which Hawks are going to have even more of that when all these, vets and unks contracts are off the books this year. Oh boy, Mikko Rantanen, get ready to learn Chicago 7x15, buddy, on July 1st. Kyle Davidson's going to open up a checkbook. You know it. You already know it. So I think this is great news, but it also does mean that when we have these young core players who aren't locked up yet coming to, these new deals or extensions, that also is going to come to play. So it's not all perfect news for the Hawks, right? There's ramifications. And for some of these players that we want, right, it gives these teams that, trying to extend and maybe a bit more leeway there. So we'll see how it plays out. But overall, though, I think it's also a good sign just for the league in general to see it go up this much. We always speculate about the salary cap. It's been these minimal, adjustments, but these are like big. Look at this, 95.5 million, 25-26, 104 million, 26-27, 113.5, 27-28. Like this is going to completely change the market, folks.
And it's not just the cap; it's the floors going up too. So the lowest amount being 70.6 in 25-26. 26-27, the lowest is going to be 76.9, and then 27-28, the lowest you can go is going to be 83.9, which is like close to the cap right now, which is like crazy to think about. Obviously it's going to be favorable for big markets, as Tassos has said on the show before, just for no reason really, just the insane desire for parity in the league is like not the best thing for ratings. So having these big markets, having a bit of an edge to be able to spend maybe not as much as they want, but getting close to it, I think it's going to be good for the growth of the game, just because we're going to start seeing crazy matchups in the postseason of insane teams. I think that's going to be a positive change for the league.
So
I think our boys gonna be really happy to see that news, right? Pookie's gonna get the bag next offseason. Oh boy.
But you know what? Like, this is my problem. And look, I have no problem with the NHL salary cap going up. It means that the league is in a healthy state, right? It means, league
making money.
We've talked about this. Projected league revenues this year is around $6.6 billion, which would be really, really good from the spot that the NHL was in, like during COVID, post-COVID. I think the NHL even thought that it would take longer to recover than it did, and here we are now, and business is kind of booming. Now, the one issue is, I think it's still important, and there's two sides of this coin, because I criticize the Avalanche for maintaining an internal cap and trading away Mikko Rantanen, right? But I also think it's important for teams to maintain an internal cap structure, because when the cap goes up, the players who end up getting the most are the top guys. And then you need to supplant your roster with cheap contracts, right? So the guys that end up getting squeezed out is the middle class in the NHL, right? It's not like, there will be
economics lesson.
So there's going to be some instances where, a player that's maybe a $4 million player becomes a $5.5 million player. But a lot of times what you're going to see is like, these big free agents, Jack Eichel, Kirill Kaprizov, like, what do you think Kirill Kaprizov's going to get now? What do you think Connor McDavid's going to get now? I've argued on this show that I think Connor McDavid is worth 20% of the cap, considering the value he brings to the Edmonton Oilers.
20 million?
Yeah. I mean, is he not worth 20? Connor McDavid's probably worth $30 million, right? Because here's the thing, like now you've, and this is a larger conversation, right? think of a guy like Alexander Ovechkin. Raven, can you look up for me what Alexander Ovechkin's career earnings is? But also think of like where the Washington Capitals were at the beginning of Alexander Ovechkin's career. Now, if you think of what if the Washington Capitals were sold today, how much would they go for? Yes, a lot of that has to do with the overall league, like, rising tide floats all boats. But a lot of that also has to do with Alexander Ovechkin, right? Alexander Ovechkin has probably increased the valuation of the Washington Capitals by at least $750 million. Right?
I like how while Professor Tassos is giving us this economics lesson, me and Lee, he's wearing his suit over there, and me and Lee are wearing our t-shirts over there.
Commenting on the suit.
Well, no, none of you guys did.
Oh, yeah.
None of you guys did.
Well, because I knew it was coming.
I think it's a very nice suit. He packed his suitcase. I like to see it.
Raven, did we get
$161,720,893?
Okay, so $160 million, let's just say. Okay, how much has Ovechkin been worth to the Capitals? I said at least... the average going rate for a National Hockey League team right now is about $1 billion, right? The Ottawa Senators were just sold to Michael Andlauer. The Utah Hockey Club was sold for $1 billion. That's the going rate for a National Hockey League team right now. The Capitals probably go for close to 2.
Yeah.
Maybe not 2, but close to it. So a large part of that difference is Alexander Ovechkin, right? The value that he's brought to that team. The Capitals aren't the Columbus Blue Jackets. I hate to sewer the Blue Jackets like that, but you know what? You guys understand what I'm saying.
He is the franchise. Like he literally is. They were nothing before him, to be honest, in terms of their history. So
exactly. I get that the salary cap going up is a really good thing for the league, but I also think it's imperative that it's just not eaten up by the stars, right? Like you have to be intelligent about it as a GM. You can't just
Moneyball.
Yeah, you can't just go and give your top dogs whatever they want, even though it's what they deserve. You can't. You have to be able to like toe the line a little bit here and be like, hey, like Adam Fox, you're getting this, and Igor Shesterkin is getting this, and everybody else is going to fall, in tow. I don't know why I used the Rangers as an example, right? Or the Maple Leafs. Mitch Marner's probably looking at this and saying, oh my gosh, like I could probably ask for 15 now. And Austin Matthews is the king of signing the 4 or 5 year deals, right? And so Austin Matthews set up his thing, or his contract, so that he can cash in. Austin Matthews' current deal ends when he's 30 years old, right? So he has the opportunity now where he's, trying to maximize his value as, a client of Judd Moldaver will do, right? But he has the opportunity when he's 30 years old to cash in on a max term, huge ticket deal, right? But if you're the Maple Leafs, you can't frankly do what you did under a smaller structure. You have to, adjust, right? So that's all I'm saying here is I hate to see the middle class of the NHL get squeezed out. But
sucks for them, right? I think being a small market poverty team, we can't relate.
I also just think that just because the cap's going up does not mean that you're going to be, every single year we're going to be seeing teams with the problems that kind of like the Maple Leafs have, where you're overpaying a select number of guys and then you have depth issues. Like, I think we're still going to see that problem, and it might even just be accentuated by this raise in the cap. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I love when big shakeups happen like this for the league, because at the very least, even if it doesn't do what we want it to do, it is something to talk about, and it's a good change. So.
Yeah, no,
I think it couldn't be more perfect timing from the Hawks' perspective, right? With where we're at in the rebuild and everything, I think it's something definitely to pounce on for sure. KD definitely will be working the phones and the tables this offseason for sure.
Look, and I also, the NBA is on a decline too in terms of ratings, in terms of popularity. The NBA is starving for future young stars like the National Hockey, like the level of, and I might have brought this up on this show before. But, in the NBA, you have guys like LeBron and Kevin Durant retiring and Steph Curry and, all the superstars that we know of the NBA are all retiring very soon here. They're on
the stars tend to carry that league too, right? In terms of marketing. It's more about the stars than the teams.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there's a couple of guys. There's Wembanyama and there's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
There's no Betsy,
Anthony Edwards.
There's and there's
John Morant's good.
But those guys aren't KD, Steph, LeBron, And I just think the National Hockey League is in a much better spot. And I always thought that the gap between the NHL and the NBA was a bit overblown. I've said that, I think I said this on Monday or Wednesday's show, that, or I forgot when I said this. I don't know. We do so much podcasting, I forget when I say things. But the NBA, I said on the live stream yesterday, the NBA is a good league, bad players. The NBA or the NHL is good players, bad league, right? Yep. So now it feels like the NHL is taking a play out of the NBA playbook, and you're going to couple that with these superstar,
every Trapezoid generation of players coming up, right? Like the McKennas, like the DuPonts. The NHL has got to take advantage of that. Work with these guys like the NBA's been done so well with in recent years. I think the product the NHL has is better. It's just the NBA's just been a more competently run league, right? This is the time to pounce is right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think just as far as the Blackhawks are concerned, this is such exciting news because it's like we are, especially if we can move on from the Seth Jones contract. It's like, dude, we have a completely fresh slate with all these young prospects that are coming through the ranks. You're going to be able to assess these guys with this cap going up. You're going to be able to spend fucking billions of dollars. Dude, you're going to be able to go out and get
billions.
Be able to offer whatever superstars, whatever you need to supplement this group you already have, plus extra money laying around for signing these guys coming out of their ELCs. Perfect timing for the Blackhawks. We should be very bullish on this team going forward.
Screw it. Connor McDavid of the Chicago. Let's get the Connor connection going. It's delusion.
Let's go.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, bud. I don't know.
Hey, you never know. You never know. Yeah, probably. That one's not happening. I think Mikko Rantanen's a realistic delusion. That's like an out there delusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun. You guys want to do Four Nations Face-Off captain announcements?
Yeah, Austin Matthews, the second best American hockey player of all time, named captain for Team USA. Obviously a proven winner of the playoffs, so that's a great pick there. Sarcasm. But Sidney Crosby for Canada. I mean, there's no debate there. I mean, you could argue now. I mean, it's funny. I looked at his record. He's apparently 31-4 or something all time playing international for Canada. I don't know if that might not be exactly right, but it's around that.
I saw that stat though, and he's 16-0 in his last 16 games or something like that too.
He's like Ian Hawke. He never loses, for Team Canada. So definitely, can't really argue with that. And then Sasha Barkov for Finland. Tough news for them though. Hearing Heiskanen's out, that kind of definitely is a big blow for them. But Barkov will be playing with Rantanen there. It should be a good connection. And then Sweden, Victor Hedman was named captain for them. So, yeah.
Yeah. No big surprises for me. I know, Lee and I were kind of debating Austin Matthews a little bit. And, we were debating, Charlie McAvoy getting
Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy.
Lee saying,
Quinn Hughes snubbed a little bit.
Leader, I don't know how you feel about that. The U.S. is probably the most contentious one.
Yeah, I don't know where Vancouver would be without Quinn Hughes. And I think I definitely wouldn't blame what's going on in the room for him and all. I think he's probably a good leader. But no, I think in terms of the picks for the U.S., I don't really have any arguments there. I mean, I joked about Matthews, but I can understand him. I think that is kind of a thing too. It's Austin Matthews. You're not going to give him to see where he's at right now. And that's just a good kind of for USA Hockey. You want to be the guy. So I mean, are there better leaders than Austin Matthews? Yes, but I understand it.
After we had the conversation yesterday, I saw a contrarian on Twitter talking about Quinn Hughes saying if he can't solve the situation in his own room, why do you want him to be a leader on this Four Nations team? Which I know is
that's ridiculous.
I know it's bait. It made me laugh.
What's Quinn Hughes supposed to do to get Elias Pettersson and JT Miller to get along?
I was going to say. I think Elias Pettersson got robbed as being captain of Sweden.
Stop.
I will say, Kel McCarr with Nathan McKinnon was kind of interesting for the A's for Canada. That was, I mean, I don't really, I think you can't really go wrong there, but I probably would have given it to McKinnon. But I mean,
they wanted to have a defenseman in there.
Probably.
They probably could have done what Sweden did because Sweden has 3 A's.
Rantanen's an A, right?
For Finland.
Or Finland.
Finland has 3
A's. Yeah.
And so
does sorry, I was thinking.
Sweden
I don't know why.
They both do.
I don't know why I mistake Finland and Sweden. That's Bjork Beam's masterclass.
They're right next to each other.
Yeah, one thing I do want to point out too, all three, this is from Chris Peters on Twitter, all 3 players wearing letters for Team USA are from the 1997 birth year, which may go down as USA's hockey's most talented ever. Some guys on the NTDP that year: Matthews, Roslovic, Keller, Kachuk, Christian Fischer, Jordan Greenway, Charlie McAvoy, Adam Fox, Luke Connon, Tage Thompson, Troy Terry.
Never heard of
Ryan
him.
Lindgren.
Well, that World Juniors team, like that 2017 season, like was insane. So I'm not surprised that was such a good draft year, right? Yeah, it's they're all coming together now.
DeBrincat was also in '97. Yeah. So Joseph Wall was also in '97. That may be the best USA year of players ever. So I just thought that was pretty.
I think
cool.
I think 1988 might clear, but otherwise, yes, I would agree.
1980. Oh,
I
why
can
is
only
it
assume
Patrick
that's
Kane?
Patrick Kane's.
Patrick Kane, yeah. I mean, but he's on an island there. I mean, in terms of depth, yeah, that year's obviously clears. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
What do you want? Can I bring this story up? Actually, this is so you guys know Yarmir. I don't think this one's in the notes. Do you have this Yager story in the notes?
Yager about? Oh, yeah, that's right. Didn't he sell his stake of his the
He's,
team he owns over there in Kladno, Czech? Is he going to retire finally?
So he announced before the season started that this would be his last year playing for Kladno. For those that are unfamiliar, he owns his hometown team in the Czech Extraliga, which is the top league in the Czech Republic. They've kind of hovered around the relegation mark for a little bit. The last few seasons, it's not like they've been able to be very successful.
Because they're just pulling him around on the ice.
So reports have
52
confirmed.
years old.
Yeah, reports have confirmed, but he only plays for sponsorship dollars. Like he plays because a lot of the sponsors for the team would pull out their sponsorships if he wasn't on the team.
No,
He basically is the team sponsor. Yeah.
Yeah. So reports confirm that Jaromir Jagr will be selling an 80% stake of his Czech club, Retreat Kladno, in an attempt to boost the club financially. An article written by ESPN said that he's selling 80% stake to businessman Thomas Drastil while holding on to the remaining minority stake. Financial details were not given. Jagr has 12 points in 29 games with Kladno. Many expect him to retire.
Not
after
too
this.
shabby considering his age. Yeah.
It's not. No, it's not. I've seen some.
Did you see
highlights.
the highlight reel
Plays out
play
there.
he made the other game? Like where he just like deep pretty much the entire defense. Like he could still play.
Yeah.
There's an argument that Jaromir Jagr has the most aura in NHL history.
Yeah,
like that guy. Like his favorite player growing up was himself, man. He's been around for like what 5 decades now. It's unreal.
Have you guys ever seen the video of Putin playing with like the Russian officials?
Yeah,
like,
that's
Russian-
not.
It's
close.
different though, right?
That's what it's going on in Czech right now with Jaromir Jagr.
No, it's
Come on, the
not.
guy's 58 years old, probably.
52.
Like, come on.
He's not
52.
that far removed from that NHL. I think 2018 was his last season with the Flames or something. Yeah, he could still. He's still got it. 52. I think Gordie Howe played till he was like in the NHL till he was like 51. So yeah.
That was a different time.
Yeah, to be
so
fair, yeah.
to be fair,
To be fair.
so Jager's owned 70% of the team since 2011. He received full ownership in 2017 when he got the other 30% from the town. The quote from Jager is, "Something is coming to an end, but a new era, and I hope a more successful one is about to start." Look, I just think it's super admirable what he
Yeah,
did.
that is cool.
You know, like to basically survive and hang on. I think we might have lost Justin here a little bit, but he might be back. We will see. But I just, to be able to do that and to buy the team that turned you into who you are and to save them for like they were probably going to go under if he didn't do what he did. And so I thought that's a story worth bringing up.
And he
It's
could,
a
he
power
could
move.
easily just like retire and then hold on to the team and have them be at the bottom. But obviously selling so that they can be in a financial situation is like, if I was in that town, I'd probably be pretty pumped. I bet there are people in that town that are saying like, man, Jager's holding us back.
No way.
No, he's a legend there. I'd say in terms of the the Chechnya people of all time, Jagr is the top of that list.
The
Chechnya.
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 I never get it right. The Czechs, yeah, he is the greatest Czech of all time. He is that country.
Well, of course, but I just mean like that Czech team sounds like they're in a pretty similar position as like the Pittsburgh Penguins are right now.
Okay, so I'm on Jaromir Jager's elite prospects right now. Look at how long it takes to
Oh my
scroll.
gosh.
No. Look how long it takes to scroll through this. This is obscene.
Unreal.
This is crazy. Okay, I'm just looking.
The Uggs still got it.
I'm looking at the Kladno roster right now, seeing if there's anybody of note here on the roster. Nope. No, I don't think anybody's on here. Jaromir Pitlick was a former NHL prospect, I think. Yeah, no, nobody. This is
that the current roster?
This is this year's roster.
His girlfriend's probably younger than most of those players.
I don't even think she was around for his Penguins days. Remember those?
Dude, yeah, no, probably not.
She's
I always
our
think of
age.
that. I always think of that
She's
story with Jagr, like back in the day. I can't remember what it was. Like, was it like there that model that like slept with him, like tried to blackmail him, and he's just like, "I'll take this picture if you don't." He's just like, "Just do it." He didn't care.
Yeah.
What a power move, that guy, man. Insane aura.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have here?
How about Utah?
Oh, you want to do
You got their
Utah?
name candidates to 3, right? And originally it was the hockey club, the Mammoth, and like the Wasatch or something.
Wasatch, yeah.
The Wasatch.
I don't
mean,
know what
that's
that is.
that's the
It's-
polar
it's
bear in
the-
Texas. There.
The Wasatch is the mountain range that surrounds Salt Lake City. And apparently it's like, I read something that it's like 80% of Salt Lake City residents live within 15 miles of the Wasatch mountain range. So, but apparently like the comments about it and people were just like, this does not resonate with us at all.
So they replaced it with the Outlaws. I actually like that. The Utah Outlaws, that would go hard. Hockey club's still an option there. So it'd be kind of funny if that went out over the Mammoth and Outlaws. I think both of those would work pretty fine. I think not as good as Yeti, but that's probably as good as you'll get after that, unless they did the Mormons. But unfortunately, that didn't make the cut. But yeah, I'd say my pick would be Outlaws or Mammoth.
Really?
Just don't pick the hockey club. Like, why would you stick?
Okay, no, I want 1, 2, 3 from both of you.
Yeah, 1 Outlaws. I like Outlaws. That just goes hard. So Outlaws, Mammoth 2, and then Hockey Club.
I'm flipped. Sorry, I'm going
Go
first.
ahead.
Mammoth Outlaws Hockey Club.
I'll go Outlaws, Mammoth, Phoenix Coyotes Hockey Club.
Bring back the Coyotes. Bring back Arizona.
No, I told you my pick was Caribou for the longest time. I don't know how far along that one got in the process, but I just thought that would have been a really fun one. I just think Mammoth is pretty unique. Like Outlaws is kind of boring, and this was for anybody that didn't catch our lacrosse talk on the live stream. Both of Denver's professional lacrosse teams are named the Outlaws and the Mammoth.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The indoor lacrosse league is called the NLL for all of our Canadian listeners who are big fans of indoor lacrosse, the national sport of Canada. It is lacrosse. Look it up, dude. You think?
Yeah, I mean they say that on paper. Hockey is clear.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
And I bet the U.S. I don't know anything about lacrosse, but I promise you the U.S. is leaps and bounds better than Canada at lacrosse.
No, it's pretty.
It's gotten better though. Like I used to play lacrosse was my second sport after hockey. It's come a long way, but no, they would destroy us in that.
Yeah. So the Colorado indoor lacrosse team in the NLL is called the Mammoth, and the Colorado outdoor lacrosse team in the PLL, the Premier Lacrosse League, is called the Denver Outlaws. So both of those options for the Utah team are directly taken from Denver lacrosse.
They're worried.
I might
about the
have to stick with the
trademarks.
hockey club there. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how are all these names taken, dude? Come on.
Also, I just did a search up just because I was curious. Utah has never had caribou as
All right, dude. Well, I think it's still a cool name.
It's not a native. Well, I mean, have they had mammoths?
Yeah.
Yes,
Mammoth.
no,
Yeah.
I'm
Mammoth
sure everybody had
is-
mammoths back in
Mammoth
the
is
day at some
actually,
point.
like,
Yeah.
region
Mammoths
based.
are native to Utah. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Aren't they like an extinct animal?
No, dude. They're still woolly mammoths roaming the earth. Yeah, they're extinct. Lee, jeez, dude.
It's just like the Preds, though.
The Utah Ice Age.
Yeah. What was the little squirrel name from Ice
Oh, that's
Age?
right. How did I forget his name?
They
Damn
should just
it.
make that motherfucker the logo for the
The
team.
Utah Sloths. Sid the Sloth.
Sid the sloth. Fun Jager stat. Somebody in chat. Fun Jager stat. In the '95 lockout, he played one game in the German second league where he
11
recorded.
points.
He had 11 points in one game.
That's always so fun to look at that hockey database. Like, what was the opposition even doing out there?
It was me. I was in that game on the
He
other
was
team.
playing plumbers and yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. He was just that guy. It was him.
We might have some breaking news here. So you have Brandon Saad next on this list. Brandon
Yeah, his
Saad.
contract was terminated. Yeah.
We've just got a report here. Vegas 1 year, $1.5 million
Why
prorated.
Vegas, dude? I
They
mean, I
need
should be
some help on the
surprised by that.
wings. Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Saad to Vegas.
And
I was
that's
hoping it'd be
interesting that he
something.
only signed for 1.5. I was listening to Kipper and Bourne yesterday, and they were talking about like what's the number that the Leafs could get him at. And I think 1.5 is a number that you'd be willing to take that guy because I think
It's
they
amazing how
terminated
much money. Yeah.
the contract. It was like I think it was like over $4 million that they terminated. So
4.5, I think. So he's getting up like 3 million. Yeah.
well, I mean, they also went through his career earnings is like over $50 million, and he's won 2 cups. So
Yeah, but you know what, dude? He left
He's
$5
playing for
million
love of the game.
on the table. He left $5 million on the table, and that's not a small amount of dough.
No, I know, but what's the difference? I don't know because I'm not that rich, but what's the difference between $50 million and $55 million? Like, does the extra
$5 million?
Yes. What does that do for you when you have $50 million though?
I don't know, like $50 million, like
$5 million, leaving $5 million on the table for you wearing jeans in a sports coat.
You don't need to.
That would be insane.
No. You don't need to expose what I'm wearing on my lower half. It's just the suit up top.
Okay, I'm wearing.
Clearly just didn't want to be a St. Louis
stains.
Blue any longer. He's clearly sick of playing for that poverty franchise.
Well, I mean, I think he wanted to be a Blue. I just don't think he wanted to be a Springfield
AHL-er.
Thunderbird. You know?
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to play in the AHL. But like, frankly, if you play in the American Hockey League, like you're. I mean, I guess the players are done paying escrow, but like you don't have to pay escrow if you're playing in the AHL because that's only an NHL thing. So you actually probably make more of your salary playing in the American Hockey League than you do in the National Hockey League. But it's
from this move.
It's a mindset thing. Like you don't want to be an AHLer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You're an NHL. And if you're Brandon Saad, you are an NHLer.
Yeah, and from this move, obviously his perspective is that he'd rather win than make money at this point in his career. So hats off. I appreciate that. It's what I like seeing from all veteran players, honestly. So
yeah, and Blackhawks legend as well. There was a trade yesterday too. Calgary receives Morgan Frost and Joe Farabee, and Philly receives Andrei Kuzmenko, Peltier, 25 second, and 28 seventh. What do y'all think of that trade? Well, definitely the biggest trades up within the last 7 days, right?
I was actually going to bring up something earlier because we were talking about Adam Boquist on waivers. I just wanted to do this first. He was actually claimed by the New York Islanders just now too.
Oh, my bad. Sorry for jumping ahead of you.
No, just because I felt like the Kuzmenko thing was a bit of a larger discussion here, where the Boquist is like open and shut. So the Islanders in the last week have acquired Tony DeAngelo, Scott Perunovich from the Islanders, and Perunovich has 2 assists in his first 2 games with the Islanders, and now Adam Boquist.
Pencil them in as a contender. I mean, that's a squad in my opinion.
I just think it probably hints more to them. There's been rumors of a guy like Scott Mayfield maybe being moved a little bit, because, Dobson's hurt right now. But if you think they got Pulock, Pelech, Dobson, Mayfield, Romanov, now DeAngelo, Boquist, Perunovich, and I might be missing somebody. So that's like 8 or 9 NHL defensemen. Like, there's only 6 spots.
Well, also
there's probably another move coming, right? You probably ship off those guys to make room.
Yeah. You just named 8 or 9 defensemen. I don't know if you just named 8 or 9 NHL defensemen.
I think I did. Maybe Boquist is.
Whole lot of mid there, though. A whole lot of mid.
And I don't know where the Islanders are like kind of middle of the pack of the NHL standings right now, which means that's where they sit in the waiver order, meaning that probably 12 to 14 teams passed on Boquist before the Islanders had a chance at claiming him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doesn't really shock me. Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Now we can do the Kuzmenko deal and the Farabee Morgan Frost trade. What do you think about it, Justin?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think we've heard a lot about, Frost, being somebody who needed to change the scenery there. And I think Farabee as well. I mean, I think he had a pretty good start, he's maybe, teeter off a little bit lately. So I think both those two getting a change of scenery. Make the Flames, these are sneaky additions for them, right? I think that team's better than a lot of us have given credit for. And I think for them it works out. Kuzmenko wasn't having the season this year that he did last year. If them clearly wasn't a fit. Peltier maybe could have been something, but I don't think he's had a great season either. So, and you're not really giving up much else. I mean, 25 second, 28 7th, who cares, right? That's just a filler in there. So I think for both Frost and Farabee, it's a good opportunity there. It kind of bolsters up their offense a bit. So yeah, I think for them it makes sense. I think if they probably went out in this trade for Philly, I think for them it probably makes a little less sense compared to the Flames. But I think both those guys clearly need to change the scenery. So maybe they didn't have as much negotiations there. Yeah.
So my understanding of this trade is that Philly wanted to move on from the Farabee contract moving forward here. And so basically the players they're getting in return are kind of like Kuzmenko is just it's kind of supposed to match. People are saying that Philly got fleeced or whatever. It's like they weren't gonna they wanted to move on from Farabee. They're probably not gonna resign Kuzmenko because if you think about Kuzmenko with John Tortorella is gonna be
not match.
That's gonna be.
He's been scratching Michkov lately, or not scratching, but he's been benched the last few games. So I don't think it's gonna work out too well for Kuzmenko.
Did you see the clip of those two going at it on the Flyers bench yesterday? And then he benched him for the second half of the game. After that, they were going at each other.
Who? Yeah, no.
Torts and Michkov.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
It did feel that step relationship that like it started off pretty well, but it does feel like lately it's been a little more tense. I mean, Michkov's game, we would say, doesn't really match up with Tort's philosophy as a skilled of a player as he is.
And then the Frost thing, it's just seems like he was not able to take over a role there in Philly, and so they don't see him as a part of their long-term future. So a shakeup for him, and they got a second in return, basically, for him, which I think is probably more than they were going to get elsewhere. So I obviously you'd think that Farabee's probably the best player in the trade here.
Yeah, he is.
But Philly got what they wanted. They got him off the books. They didn't think Frost was going to be a player long term. And they get back Kuzmenko and Peltier, who, you know, it's kind of just like a gamble. It's like rolling the dice. If one of these guys works, nice. If not, we've got money going forward. We've got Farabee off the books for whatever he had left, like $5 million for like 3 more years or whatever it was. So I think it could be a win-win for both teams. Calgary's another one of those teams. We just mentioned that the Blue Jackets have the most cap space in the NHL. Calgary are right behind them, just a few mil behind. So exciting things for Calgary too. Like another team that's just on the outskirts, or I think maybe in that second. They're in a wild card spot.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I think my big takeaway from this whole trade is I think your tattoo reality is becoming even more clear now. I mean, those are 2 big additions for them, I think, in that offense. So yeah, I think it's suddenly looking not too far fetched there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally getting Flames tattooed. And
Flames playoff run. Let's go.
Because it does.
Actually, this is sorry to cut you off. This is a
really cut me off.
Yeah, really to cut you off here. This is a 3-way deal. I facilitated the trade, and in return, I'm getting a tattoo. Go on.
Welcome to the club.
2 things. One, the Philadelphia Flyers. You know, I guess. Okay, so the East is weird because, you know, I don't think anybody really truly believes the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to make the playoffs. But if you include the Pittsburgh Penguins from the 9 spot, you know, because there's 10 teams that, you know, or whatever from wild card.
The Sabres are the only ones out of it.
The
That's
Sabres
so
are the only ones really out of it right now. You know, the Penguins are 7 points out of the playoffs, but I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna get there. But like right above them is the Flyers for the 3rd to last spot in the Eastern Conference, and the Flyers are only 5 points out of it. Now, what this tells me is that Danny Briere is holding firm to the rebuild process and the idea. He's not going to be enticed to like hang on to pieces that he doesn't feel are long-term fits with the franchise, i.e. Frost and Farabee, you know, for the sake of committing to what is the future, which is Matvei Michkov, right? So commendable. I like that. I still think it's weird though, because you think of like the Flyers and the rebuild, but I couldn't even tell you like a ton of Flyers prospects, you know, and I know some prospects, and maybe that's like a Steven Ellis kind of question. You know, I know they had Jet Lichenko who played a couple of games, and then, you know, they have Oliver Bonk too, who plays on the London Knights, but like none of these prospects are really like, you know, like some of the Blackhawks young pieces. It's not like, you know, like the Blackhawks have a plethora of young, talented hockey players, and it's like Philly doesn't really have that, man.
It feels like more of a retool than a rebuild, but yeah, I think their best prospect did well play for them too, so that doesn't help from that perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know. Drysdale's been a great fit from that perspective either, so I definitely coming out on the short end there as well probably doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, like Drysdale's fine, but he's not gonna be what Cutter Gauthier is.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like right? Emil Andre is your 3rd highest rated, a 22-year-old Emil Andre. You know,
pronounce that one.
Zavgarin.
Denver so are you saying you're not really sold on their future here? You think they're kind of stuck in no man's land here a little bit? You're not as high in them?
If I'm a Flyers fan, I better hope that you get some draft lottery luck, or you start losing your rear ends off and land yourself a top 4 pick.
I don't know.
You gotta get Michkov more support.
I don't really see it that way though, because the Flyers, they do have some pieces. Like, I don't know, like they've got some good top 6 guys. It feels like this is just some housekeeping. You're entering these next couple years with more cap space. Yeah, sure. Dive deep in the draft this year, and then with Farabee off the books now, they have more room to, if they want to bring in higher end talent, they can do that.
Can you check their draft capital for me right now? Like, how many picks do they have in this upcoming draft?
I believe they have 4 second-round picks this year.
Really?
Yes.
The package goes up, move up, get more top end guys. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, we talked about the Hawks doing that. Like, the Flyers need to do that.
Yeah. They're probably in a similar spot. Why can't
I don't know, man. I'm looking at this roster and I don't see it, to be honest with you. Like, you know, Travis Konechny and Travis Sanheim, you're Travis squared, you know, it's like those guys, I guess, are Team Canada guys. I remember people were chirping Travis Sanheim for making Team Canada, and Travis Konechny chirped back on Twitter.
Cows.
What?
Sorry. They have 3 first-round picks this year,
Okay.
4 seconds, a third, a fourth, 2 fifths, a sixth, and a seventh.
Wow.
Well, Prospect Pool is going to start looking a lot better after this draft. Yeah, that could be the answer
Whose
to their
first
issues
round
there.
picks do they have outside of
Great
theirs?
question. Edmonton's and Avalanche.
Okay.
They'll probably be later picks, but still, you could still package those up and all. You could still make something happen in that regard. Right?
Yeah, there's
All those
still 2
seconds.
first-round picks.
I mean, you have to. Like, I'm looking at this lineup. It's like Tyson Forrester is a nice young player. Bobby Brink is a good, nice young player, but he's super inconsistent. You know, you better hope that, like, Jacob Pelche is pretty good if you just brought him in like that. And I think he is. He's really turned a corner after having a tough start to the year, you know. But, like, dude, this defense, like, Cam York is having a night. Cam York is probably, like, the bright young spot. But you have Jamie Drysdale listed as your 6th defenseman, too. And the goaltending is a perpetual mess in Philadelphia. Maybe we're not even talking enough about, like, I feel like this is the most Flyers talk we've ever done on this show. But, you know, maybe we should be talking more about them coming out of this and how they're actually going to do this.
Yeah, they need to surround Michkov more support, right? He had a really hot start to his rookie season, but it must be said, like, he has kind of teetered off a little bit. Not just him, like the whole team has. Like, they were kind of fighting in that race. They still are technically. They're only 5 points out, but it feels like things haven't really been going, you know, strongly for them lately. It's been from that aspect. So in their future, I don't know.
I just look at it. I think maybe I just look at it more optimistically than you guys, because I think to myself, like, they've got all this draft capital. They've got almost a blank slate going forward as far as cap room and stuff now, and they've already got a few pieces that have made them competitive. They're only a few points out of the playoffs, and they've got all this stuff ahead of them. So,
but they just traded to they just traded 2 contributors to their lineup for a guy in Andrei Kuzmenko who is, you know, Torts is like going to hate this dude, man. Like, he is absolutely, like, I couldn't think of, I said this on my show, I think, if John Tortorella listed players 1 to 450 of guys that he would want on his team, I think Andrei Kuzmenko would be bottom 5 on players that Tortorella would want on his team, and Danny Briere just went out and got him. And Pelche is like a B-level prospect-ish that's almost like exiting the prospect stage, and we're almost kind of getting a clear picture of who he is, right? You know? I don't know here.
Yeah, I guess from that standpoint, yeah, there's no needle movement going on here. If anything, it's in the wrong direction. So,
for the Flame side of things too, I know we just did a bunch of Flyers talk, and you know, maybe we'll do a little bit more in the next point I want to bring up. But I will just say, like, good for Craig Conroy, man. Like, this is a good deal for you. To bring in 2 guys. I heard on 32 Thoughts that he was looking for a right-handed center, and Frost is a lefty, so it didn't exactly fit what he was looking for. But I like this deal. Like, they're in a playoff spot as of this morning. They, you know, guys like Coronado had a hat trick last night. Like, he's been really good. We've talked a lot about Dustin Wolf and how great he's been. Huberdeau has really turned the corner. Mackenzie Weegar should probably be the guy that replaces Alex Pietrangelo at the Four Nations.
Pietrangelo had a whiff last night in overtime, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was bad.
But, like, good on him for, like, a trade like this. You know, the same for, like, Columbus. When we talk about them making a move with all the cap space they have, it boosts the locker room up. You're like, oh my gosh, we're getting like 2 players now that, like, we can do this. We can go make the playoffs. We're better than Vancouver. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a boost of confidence to your group. Shot in the arm, if you will.
Yeah, but
I mean, you're buying, right? I mean, this move definitely shows that, right? So, no, good for them for sure.
I don't know. I was just gonna say, like, Morgan Frost. Like, I know I was talking about how, like, that would be a guy that I could see Chicago possibly going after, just because, like, I understand it's a bit of a risk, but I mean, the thing with him is he seems to be like a skill guy who's not quite good enough to be a top 6 forward, but he's not defensively sound enough to be a bottom 6 forward. So
where does that sound familiar?
Yeah, we've got a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Farabee though he's still got some pretty solid upside for me that's like the X factor in that.
He had 50 points last year.
Yeah, and he had for sure. And he had a really good like rookie season too.
He's having a down year this year.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in Philly are though.
Yeah, I think he needed this. I think both of them did. So I think for them there's definitely more upside in this trade than for Philly.
So who do you guys think won it?
I'd say Calgary.
Oh, the trade, Calgary. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward for me.
So a trade that hasn't happened, but somewhere that there's a little bit of noise is Los Angeles right now with the return of Drew Doughty to the lineup. There have been some rumors and reports of Brandt Clark potentially being on the he's on the outside looking in of the roster right now, and that there may be a potential that he's moved.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, you have this guy here, like Drew Doughty's not, I know he's still solid, but he's not getting any younger. He's not going to be around forever. Like that, Brett Clark could be your next Drew Doughty there. Do you want to move on from him just because he's back and you think he's the guy who's outside looking in now? Like, I think he's had a fine season. I think there are other guys there I'd probably be, sent down or on the move before him. So I don't really understand that. I don't think he needs a change of scenery. I think, why wouldn't you not see him out as your franchise D potentially moving forward? Are they just not that sold on him?
I don't know. I really don't know what it is because he actually had a really nice start to the season, cooled off a little bit. Jim Hiller, coach in Los Angeles, was raving about the work on the defensive side of the puck and how far he's come defensively at the start of the year. And now we're talking about trading Brandt Clark. I agree with you, Justin. Like Drew Doughty's 36 years old, like you have your next Anze Kopitar. Maybe, it's a bit of an exaggeration calling Quentin Byfield the next Anze Kopitar, but Quentin Byfield's turned into at the very, and he hasn't had the best year as far as shooting the puck in the net, but
he has tremendous upside. It's pretty clear.
Tremendous upside.
And why would you give up on that so prematurely?
And he's grown a lot. Like, you're not moving on from Quentin Byfield, right? But to move on from Brandt Clark, I just think is ridiculous. And I guess the question I could pose to you guys from this, one, would you want the Hawks maybe to look at a player like that if they could? Number one. And two, maybe the team that we were just talking about, the Philadelphia Flyers, should probably, that's a team that
I think that makes more sense for Philly, right? Because I think the Hawks don't really have a shortage of players who could become that, but the Flyers look at that decor, it's like, they could definitely use a Brad Clark there, kind of fill some of the gaps in that hole there for their future. So for the Hawks, it sounds great, but it's I don't know. I think in terms of we all know this. I think in terms of moves, I'm making moves for forwards this rate, not defense. Yeah.
Even if you could get him at a discount, though.
Yeah, if you could,
it depends upon what the number is. Speaking of Blackhawks decor and such, we've got some not necessarily breaking news, but lineups for tomorrow came out. Mrazek in net. Connor Murphy's back in the lineup, and that means we have, and so is TJ Brody. So if you've been paying attention,
Brody still in the lineup.
That means Ethan Del Mastro and Nolan Allen are both getting the health scratch.
Nolan Allen was fine last night. Are you kidding me?
I wouldn't say he was fine. I thought he was really good last night.
A better defenseman. Yeah, no, I'm not giving enough credit, to be honest with you.
So that means that either Del Mastro or Allen are probably going to be being sent back down to Rockford here, and then Pat Maroon is drawing back into the lineup for Philip Kurashev, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I mean, Kurashev was asked last night, but that's the season for you. But yeah, I think I theorized in the post game last night that when I said it, Murphy's going to be back soon, and it turns out he's back even sooner than I thought. So who's the guy who sent down? Considering Allen's been up here all season, I have to think it's going to be Del Mastro sent down. It was kind of a 3-game reward, what have you, and then now he's back down. Again, makes scratching him last night even more puzzling. It's like you could have got him another game instead. Now he gets 3. That's not really much of a sample size there to work with. Kevin at least had 9 games before he was sent down, so that's interesting. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah.
This TJ Brody situation is so bad, man.
That's more puzzling though. It's like they don't both need to be scratched, right? I mean, Brody, another bad game. Even Martinez, why not scratch him? He was terrible last night. Play the young D. I don't know why that's so hard for Sorensen to do. That's like a Richardson lab decision. I don't understand it. Yeah.
No, me neither. Me neither.
Yeah, we should stick with Soda too. I mean, I kind of understand
that's
that one
the
a little
move.
More.
Soda's gotten the past 2 in a row.
I
He
don't
could make a 3. He started 3
Yeah.
or 4 this season. I thought
Yep.
it's not like he did anything in that game last night that was like, oh, we got to go back to Peter. I thought he was fine, but I mean, it's not a back-to-back, but like it is a matinee, right? So it's not that far removed from a Thursday game. Maybe that's a thought process. They're treating it like a back-to-back kind of, but I don't know. I feel like he could have stuck with Soda. Yeah.
I think it's crazy. Go back to Arvid Soderblom. Give him a run of games here. You have nothing more to learn about Peter Mrazek.
He is what he is.
Yeah, he is what he is. We're still learning about Arvid Soderblom. Give him 3, 4, 5 games in a row here. Give him 7 of the next 9. Like, why not, dude?
Imagine showing this to us out of context a year ago.
Yeah.
You know what you have in Peter Mrazek. Give Soderblom a stretch of starts. We would have been like, shut up. The Interstellar meme where he's like, no.
That's a great meme, right? That is solid. Like, he is definitely, like, for end of season awards, we still have a long way to go this season. Like, he would be like the biggest surprise at general most improved player. Like, he'd win both of those. Like, it's been tremendous to watch. Yeah.
It'd be cool if the NHL had a most improved player award. Not to
Yeah,
totally
something
sidetrack.
like that. Yeah, it's been a positive season. An historic season, as it had many. I'd say he's been one of them for sure.
All right. Do you want to do Philip Grubauer before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, I mean, he's on waivers. That doesn't really shock me. I mean, he's had a pretty disastrous season. I saw a stat, like, apparently since 21-22, like, he's had the worst goals saved above expected since that time. And it's, like, by a lot. Like, a big gap. Like, he's just stats-wise, he's been, like, the worst goal in the NHL the past few years. So, yeah, that doesn't really shock me.
Yeah, and this season, I think he's, like, 5-12 with, like, an 8.66. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another crazy stat, not the segue already, but the Sharks' last 7 losses, check this out. They've allowed 40 goals over those last 7 losses.
Woof.
That's 5.7 goals per game. I said it.
Is that good, chat?
I wasn't joking the other week when I said that they're intentionally selling over there. Like, I don't know how it's possibly that bad defensively. And they have a scar up there, too, so I don't know. That's pretty brutal.
Matthew Schaefer, get ready to learn Southern California, buddy.
Yeah, if they don't get him, like, they're kind of like, that's a big hole there. It must be said. Like, they do have some defensive prospects, but that is their weakness. And it's like, Escar is great and all, but, like, elite goaltender is not going to make it on its own. You have to have the defense to back him up, right? Like, look at Shesterkin in New York. Like, his game isn't what it is when he doesn't have that decor supporting him, right? So Escar, he's got a bright future there, but I think you got to surround him with that support. Right?
How about this? How about this? The Blackhawks get the first overall pick. They take Schaefer. They trade Korchinski and insert anything. Get San Jose's pick. Take a forward. Boom.
That is pretty telling, though. Like, you almost want to take Schaefer less for the Hawks' benefit, more to screw over the Sharks. It'd be kind of be like what the Vancouver did to Quinn Hughes from that aspect, towards us. So I see the vision. I'm still taking Higgins. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I see your point. I see the logic in your I see it.
Well, all right. Anything else? I mean, that was a pretty long show.
Is Eric Johnson one of the funniest players in the NHL, at least on social media?
I haven't followed.
Yeah, didn't he say something after, like, when Rantanen was traded, like, what the hell or something?
He said what the hell under the post on the Avalanche when they traded Rantanen.
Remember when he won the cup and he was, like, in bed with the cup? That was pretty funny.
And then apparently last night when the Flyers because he's on the Flyers now, when they traded Frost and Farabee, he said, just fell to my knees at Chicky and Pete's.
Oh my gosh, he's just a memer. That's just like it's like a common Instagram comment.
I had to look it up. Chicky and Pete's is a South Philadelphia sports bar. So I guess he was enjoying a pint and fell to his knees there. So I thought that was pretty funny. I don't know.
Yeah, I wish you'd see more of that from NHL players, showing that personality online too. A lot of these guys are chronically online, but they never show it, right? So that's pretty funny.
That's so true. These guys are definitely online. As much
Betsy's definitely one of those guys, yeah.
Yeah. You had Will Smith being like, I love TikTok the other day. Yeah. I saw that quote
going
around.
He and Sal Brady made a TikTok of, like, trick shots, basketball trick shots. Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
No, they were recreating the LeBron and
with
his
kids.
That was like a famous video that went around. And they were recreating it. I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny.
And the Hawks had a TikTok the other day where they're asking players who the GOAT is. Pretty much everybody was saying Jordan, then Bedsy said the GOAT. That might be the one time I've been disappointed in my boy. No. MJ Clears, man. No. That's a disappointing Chicago answer. No. I don't want to hear this woke nonsense from Lee here, glazing LeBron over there.
He knows ball.
Sunshine. Yeah.
He knows ball.
Agree or disagree.
All right.
Apparently, the other teams that were in on Brandon's side, the Maple Leafs, the Devils, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, according to Frank Saravalli.
Huh, interesting. This is kind of random, but I think this is worth bringing up too, because I said it almost jokingly the other night. That I feel like Bedsy doesn't always get some calls and stuff like that incident's late. I saw a stat. Apparently he's like 362nd in penalties draw in the NHL, and that seems kind of unreal of how much he has the puck and stuff. Like, is there anything to look into there? Because I think McDavid too, like you think he draw more penalties than he doesn't. Like, what is it like these star players? It's always like the opposite of the NBA, where they don't seem to get the leeway of some of these calls nowadays.
Yeah.
Fair point.
Call the rule book.
Especially for your stars.
Yeah, right? Protect your stars. I don't know. That was kind of random, but I just had to throw that in there, right?
No, that's fair.
It was a quick hit.
That's fair. I did want to say too, just, anytime we lose people in the hockey community, I feel like that's a fair thing. Former goaltender Sean Simpson, he was an NHL backup goalie for 2 games. He didn't play a game in the National Hockey League, but he was a Ottawa Senators reporter for a little while. He worked in various different front offices. Just felt like that was a worthwhile mention. I know a lot of people in the hockey community were mourning the loss there, and people dying too young sucks. So our condolences from Chicago. All right.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah. All right. Post game tomorrow after the game against the Florida Panthers, Lee and I decided we will be live streaming the game a week from tomorrow. So they play the St. Louis Blues a week from tomorrow, and I think that's their final game before the Four Nations face-off too. So that will be the next live stream that we have. Next show, regular thing, Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. And then they don't play again after Saturday until Wednesday. So
what's up with that, man? Like, there was the same deal last week. There was like a 3-day break for no reason whatsoever. I don't get it, man. I need my Blackhawks hockey, man, like a drug. So don't take that away from me.
Yeah.
Justin's a fiend.
Justin is a fiend. All right.
Addicted to Pookie hockey.
So post-game show after tomorrow, be on the lookout for that. Ticket giveaway contest with the barn ends Sunday at 11:59 p.m. or Central Time. Sorry, not Eastern. If you're on Eastern, it ends at 12:59, so it ends on Monday. But it ends on Sunday if you are a Chicago resident. Live show at Midwest Coast Brewing, March 5th, Wednesday, against the Senators. That will be a lot of fun. Be sure to click the RSVP link in the description of this episode down below. Thanks to everybody who popped into the live stream last night, and everybody that's been supporting us. Keep continuing to click subscribe, and following us on Instagram. We're like 12 away or something from 800, so we would love to get there by the time we talk to you next Monday. I don't know if you boys have anything else, but that's it for me.
Thanks, Plug God. That's good for me.
Cool.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Looking forward to the weekend here, and the game tomorrow should be a fun one.
All right, have a nice weekend, everybody. We'll catch you tomorrow for post game and show on Monday.
All right.